What's up, Smite fans? Don't Leviathans and you'll be gladiators that you did. Levi's vs. Glads coming up now.
You're such an idiot, dude. For clarification, I was told coming into this, hey, we've got a coming up next that Chel did voiceover for, and I've been told there's a really funny joke in it.
I didn't say that. Billy said that. But
Yeah,
me
but
and
you were nodding along, man.
Me and Jordan worked on that for hours.
No, yeah? That's what workshopping can get you.
Yep.
That is Damn it, dude. Anyway, Leviathans, Glads, if you didn't get it from that intro, is what's going to be up next. Of course, it's been a very fun day, very fun week so far. All best of fives, as Trelly has said in his other video, which is going to be 2 every day. We've already done 1. We'll be going into the next one. That is, again, Leviathans and Gladiators. You need to have more visual representation. Take a peek, see at the bracket, which for me is always incredibly helpful. Kings just now 3-1'd the Hounds. Leviathans, Gladiators, as mentioned, coming up next. Gladiators got here by 3-1'ing the Ferrymen. The Hounds will find themselves up against the Ferrymen themselves. That'll be tomorrow. Kings will be awaiting the winner of this. Kings guarantee themselves first or second seed from this tournament going in towards Masters. Still behind the Warriors and the Ravens. Whoever wins this next one, Trelly, is also going to guarantee themselves first or second seed out of this tournament and give themselves a little bit of an easier bracket in Masters to have to deal with.
And that is what you're playing for. Not only is it important because you just want to get momentum built in a tournament early on, of course, that's number one, but also
the Zapman effect.
Yeah, you also want to have that confidence, and I think that's another big deal. If you're able to, string together some wins, you feel good. That goes into the same sort of thing. So both of these teams could use a win here. In that case, I think they've have high points, of course, but have also been struggling. So we'll have to see what they're able to do.
Well, and if I'm remembering correctly, the Leviathans. Again, that entire division was a little murky in the waters, right? A lot of people, you go past the Warriors and the win-losses weren't looking too great. There was definitely a lot of needing to overcome what was in their way. But more specifically, looking towards their last week, being able to find themselves a win that got them here. Losing technically to the Dragons, but 2-0ing just the day before that. The Gladiators. So if you're going off of very, 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 very recent history, this was a matchup that the Leviathans, I remember the games being a little long, but we're still able to come out on top.
So confidence still should be in favor of the Leviathans, of course, but again, it's all about stringing together those wins, and in this case, I think I still want to see the identity of the Leviathans, Yeah. I think there's been a lot of different gods picked and a lot of different, play styles thrown at the wall. They have been more consistent as of recent. Maybe that's what they're going with, and if that's the case, good stuff. But I still think they've got some room to grow, so I'm excited what they bring.
Well, we've been trying to figure out confidence levels, what maybe to expect, the team identity. Who better than to get a vibe check from the team than from the team itself? We got fineokay standing by ready for an interview.
Yeah, that's right. I've got fineokay with me here from the Leviathans, and maybe let's open up with a question like that one. It's been kind of wondering what this team is going to be doing throughout their game, kind of what the identity of the team of the Leviathans is. In your opinion, maybe what do you think kind of identifies your team and maybe sets them apart from some of the other squads?
Just making horrible mistakes that cost us the game, basically. I don't think a lot of other teams are doing that right now. They're playing more consistent, but we like to kind of lose the games on our own.
Kind of like to have a little bit of fun. And speaking of kind of maybe odd picks, we've been seeing a lot of different stuff out of you over into the solo lane. We've been seeing things like Nike kind of pop up with the early Frostbound builds that we've been seeing. What do you got cooking over in solo lane, man?
I'm just trying to do anything I possibly can to have fun with the meta right now, basically. And, I'm just trying to play something other than Vamana, Herc, or Guan. So maybe a Nike, maybe a Sobek. I mean, I don't know. Sobek's fun, too. So we'll see.
Now, going here up against the Gladiators, I mean, this is a team that beginning of the phase had some struggles, has found a couple of key wins against some big opponents, namely Camelot Kings, and they found a win just yesterday as well up against the 6 Ferrymen. What do you think is starting to maybe kind of turn in the gears for this team to maybe help them find some of that success?
I mean, this has kind of been the, it's kind of like Bobby's from the Scarabs and everything. Their identity is, they kind of show up come tournament time and play really well. And I think just throughout the season, we've had a lot of games, 6 weeks so far, and they've had a lot of time to practice against, quote-unquote, the better team. So I just think that they're starting to find their identity and everything. But I think a lot of it just comes down to confidence. I mean, 50% of like SMITE Pro is just being confident you can beat the other team and not playing scared. So I think they're kind of finally doing that, and it's helping them.
What do you think that maybe your team has, in the back pocket to try and take down a team like this? What do you think is maybe that key to trying knocking down the Gilded Gladiators in a matchup like today?
I'm Kyrmi's father, basically. So I think he's my son. So
He's your son. You just got to teach him a lesson. Let him know who's still the top dog around these parts. All right. Well, fineokay, thank you for coming by for the interview. I'll let you get back with the team. Good luck in your match.
Thank
we'll
you.
throw it back to the desk.
If we get to see Solo Sobek today, Solo back as some people have called it.
They have called it that, yes.
I'll just be happy. Pretty excited. Might, depending on how the set's been going, it might end up meaning a longer day, though, so we'll figure that one out. The thing that we've been talking about, especially when you look at these two teams, I think it's a tale of two junglers, right? Especially the last time they played. Yep. Adapting goes absolutely insane. I think Zap had a really good game, adapting 114 total kills throughout the first phase. Top of the kill leaderboard for a good reason. 40 kills behind him, but on the other side, and a part of the reason the Gladiators were able to find any wins that they were able to pick up was Kyrmi in that conversation. I think that, we almost always talk about him when it comes to this team because of his performance, but I don't think there has been, especially after what we saw yesterday, as many games from this team where it's like, okay, so Kyrmi won them the game and everybody else was around. Yesterday, we got to see Kyrmi playing well, but we got to see Inbowned and Stuart and Scary, everybody, Snoopy especially, playing incredibly well from the Gladiators and really stepping up the performance, even just from week 5 to what we've seen in the 2 weeks since then. I think was a really impressive pickup.
Yep, and I think consistency is my main issue with Kyrmi because, as you said, we see games where he just absolutely pops off and can be the difference maker of his squad. Then sometimes he just gets blown out of the water. I guess that is sort of the jungle meta at the moment, is the guy who gets off rolling is going to have a good game. Adapting has just been pretty consistent about that, so I'm thinking Kyrmi might want to dial into some of that early aggression that he's so used to finding and try and string together some early kills. That's sort of how the Gilded Gladiators have liked to play. But I think you're right to highlight Snoopy. He started off a little rough to this season, and I have been seeing the improvement, and that's what you sort of expect from a squad like this who's able to string together some wins, that you're going to look better as long as you start playing with your team more and more. But Snoopy in particular is someone that I think has to have a good performance for this squad. Kyrmi, of course, that goes without saying. Jungling is just so important in the current meta. You can just control a lane pretty much from minute 1 to minute done. But Stuart's always been pretty consistent. I think that Inbound has been, he's going to live for the team or die for the team. But Snoopy has been this big question mark for me. And when he is looking good, the team's on point. But when he's not, they just don't really have a chance. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Snoopy absolutely stepping up here in this matchup. And, of course, Scary D as well. If they're able to play off each other, wouldn't be surprised if we saw a pretty competitive match between these two.
Yesterday, Gladiators 2 big Baba Yaga games back-to-back for Snoopy. And then immediately resulted in a ban for the rest of the set. So if the Leviathans did their homework, maybe that's something we don't get to see today. Maybe Snoopy gets to lock it in and feel just as confident in their capabilities. It's also been a little bit, again, since the last time we got to see the Leviathans play. Very small shift-ups in a lot of the meta, nerfs that hit a lot of those gods that were big in week 5 and the week before that and the week before that. For some of them, the week before that and the week before that. But that being said, we've still seen a lot of Hachi. Afro's still been around, Marty's still been around, Guan's still been around. A lot of the nerfs that maybe were thrown out have not really latched on hard enough that it's creating a different conversation as heavily in picks and bans outside of some priority order.
No, I think that the top meta is still very similar. Maybe these gods have a little bit less impact, but they're still top of the meta for a reason. At the very least, I have liked what we saw in last set. Some of these magical supports, some of these healing supports sort of taking the backseat, which I appreciate. It creates more CC, which I think you need in these late-game team fights. If you're just saying, hey, we've got Hell, we've got Afro, we're hoping that our junglers can pick up the slack, it does get a little bit more difficult. So I like that we've been seeing the Terras, for example, the Yemojas, Ymir. Those are things that are certainly in Ronngyu and Inbound's wheelhouse, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more Guardians prioritized in a set like this. But I do think the pressure is still on the Gladiators. We talked about their last matchup, the last time the Leviathans faced the Glads. They looked real good. So I expect and really want to see the Gladiators trying something maybe a little bit different meta-wise, but also something that can get active pre-level 5. I'm talking very early on scrapping. That's the kind of nature I like to see from the Glads, and I would be surprised if we didn't see that pressure.
Get Kyrmi in there on
Yep.
something that can carry, but like you said, that can start to carry maybe early on. We saw, Fenrir, we've got to, surprisingly enough, this absolutely blew my mind. We saw his Serqet as well. Maybe glance over the Susanoo game yesterday just because it was a loss, but then, you get to go right back to that Serqet. It feels like, at least when it came down to the Ferryman, maybe less prepared for the Gladiators than what we've seen in the past, especially when you go back towards the last set they played against the Leviathans. Serqet was getting banned alongside things like the Nox and the Hell. And so if you have to imagine if they're planning some of that up front, they're trying to plan against it here. We'll find out in picks and bans for game number 1 how this team is going to do. Leviathans will be first pick. And Shelly, speak of the devil, and she will appear. There is the Serqet, first band immediately up front. And so I guess the question I have for you is, do you think the Baba Yaga is worth a top 3 ban, or do you think that Snoopy has to show up and prove that it's worth it today?
I mean, at this point, I would, since it's a 5-game set, you could certainly let it go. I don't think it's that big of an issue. If the Leviathan's game plan is, hey, Snoopy looks so bad on everything that's not Baba, that's different, but I don't think that's the case, and because of that, we're not going to see it banned here, at least from the Leviathans. If it just absolutely pops off, then yeah, that could be a game 2, game 3 decision.
Yeah.
But game 1, usually you stick to the meta and you try and disrupt the flow of the Gilded Gladiators. And since Kyrmi likes that Serqet so much, I have no problem with the way the P's and B's have went so far. Does leave a lot open for the Leviathans. The Marty being taken away, I think, is a smart call. That's something that Zap has liked to go to in the past. But it looks like they're going to play it smart and say, hey, we
Fair
don't
enough.
have to ban it because we're able to take it before you. Let's grab the Baba and now let Snoopy get it in his hands.
Feels a little refreshing, considering we've seen a plethora of Hachi first picks over the last couple of days. Still a good god, not necessarily, I think, even looking over what Hachi has. I think you want to get Sheento on something that he can perform well on. You want to take Snoopy away from a comfort zone. And it's nice to see, again, that they were doing their homework watching yesterday. H-gods, though, have still been the name of the game. Hercules, Hachi, Hebo, Horus, Hel. All 5 of them have still been incredibly prominent, and at least 2 of those are going to get locked in right here, Hachi and Herc. Top 2 for the Gladiators. Good frontline, good carry, not much you can do to complain about.
Nope. Herc and Hachi, not going to reveal too much about your draft, just very strong in their lane, very safe in that regard. I got no problems with that top 2 either. But now is where you could have some difference. It's going to be the Heimdallr and the Yemoja hover. I would like this a lot. The Heimdallr matches the safety of the Hachi. And of course the Yemoja has just been such a potent playmaker, just about in anyone's hand, especially given over to Ronngyu. I mean, if you're ignoring these mage supports, which I don't think the Gladiators will, but in this case the Leviathans are, the Yemoja just brings so much to the table. Merlin is a pick that Snoopy has liked to go to in the past, and with Baba being gone, at least he's on something he's comfortable on.
Gives him that opportunity, like you said. And also, given what we just saw, we know if it comes down to defenses, Merlin does a hell of a job.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully for the Gladiators and Gladiators fans out there, probably won't find yourself in that position or don't want to find yourself in that position. Fenrir gets banned out. Which has me wondering where the Gladiators are going to go. A lot of jungle bans, I presume, in this next wave. Again, adapting kill leader throughout the first 5 weeks of Phase 1, everything leading into playoffs here. And even though the KDA maybe doesn't get to match that, and when you start looking towards that, you see definitely a shakeup for it. Have to be worried about what he's going to bring to the table, but it is, I think, a wow moment. Again, maybe leads to what there's. I see Odin and Fenrir banned out, and I'm thinking Hebo's coming up, right? I mean, that it just screams to me that he's available. Something that's an option for him. A wheelish Horus banned out on the other side. So both teams hedging their bets, Trelli.
Yep, I think Susanoo, certainly a pick that might be contested from both of these junglers now at this point. It's just, a very dynamic pick, can get active early, still has a great late game. That ultimate's so effective at jungle fights, and I think adapting and Kyrmi have been known to go towards it, but that also means the Baka is available, and maybe you don't want to pick yourself into that matchup. Thor, a pick that hasn't been played in a while, but still does have value, especially into the Susanoo matchup. So my guess, both of these teams want to wait to pick their junglers. They want the counter matchup if possible. And unfortunately for the Leviathans, they don't have that option if the Glads don't grab their jungle here. Inbound's thinking a lot, so maybe they're trying to find his support pick. Again, I said the mage supports may be overlooked, but in a situation like this, I don't think that Hell is useless.
Things up, shall we?
Speaking of not useless, the Baron. I'm not going to say that that was a bad segue, because I actually don't think Baron's as good as I just led on to, especially in a Yemoja. It's not a great matchup, but it's got good lockdown. It's pretty decent in lane if you're able to stay safe. I just think he's got a bit of Ymir syndrome, where you're standing at the front line setting up for your squad, or your team has left you and you are dying.
Well, fineokay, at least in hovers, follows through on the things he hinted at. Nike, Indu, Sobek.
And this is just wild. There's no way Sobek is more fun than other warriors. I'm not buying it for a second. I've been in a Sobek
You
lane.
think fineokay would lie to us?
Yes. He would lie to us in our face, 100%.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong there.
Are you like I want a DNA test? You're telling me that's Kyrmi's father? I'm not buying it.
I don't know if we can arrange that. That might be too invasive.
I'm just saying, plenty of lies have been said in that interview
Good
from
point.
Okay.
I don't know. I think if you hook a lie detector up, I don't think his heart rate's spiking at all. I think he believes everything he said. Whether or not it's actually the truth is TBD.
Yep.
But he might believe it all. And they're trying to figure out what their matchup's going to be. Presumably a pick here for adapting as well. King Arthur gets locked in, something that we've been seeing on the front line. And Trelly, it's been very few and far in between, but he's been having a good time. Bakasura, we've been seeing a lot of. And based on how the last set went, he can have some really good games as well.
Yeah, I think that was the smart pick. I think the Leviathan's definitely one of the Susano there, but you can't grab it with Baka open. It's just a terrible matchup. You want to start Blink, but you're going to get the Cripple Goo on you. You're pretty much losing that 1v1 every single time. And because of that, you just want to say, hey, let's just grab this in case. It's not going to have too many bad matchups in the jungle at the very least. Force Kyrmi into a safer pick or something that can just get away from Baka. And I think it was the smarter call there from the Leviathans. Of course, adapting has plenty of gods that he could have went to, but I think this one cemented his early game. He sells good team fight. He sells good 1v1. That's sort of what they're looking towards here. All in all, I see the single target damage from the Heimdallr and the Bakasura, all the while the Batz gets locked in. They've got plenty of beads burned too. I mean, the Hercules, the Baron, will do that job for you, and the Batz can come in after. The issue, of course, is that this is not that early level aggression I was talking about for the Glads. Batz, he's not taking too many scraps with Bakasura early on. Level 5 maybe, but you're one to sit back and farm a bit if you're picking the Batz.
That might be something we're going to have to watch. I mean, do you think the Bakasura... It's really... We know that Kyrmi might be able to get it slightly hands-on, but is more or less going to be farming. Is Baka going to punish him for that? Is he going to be active enough that you feel regret because of the Hunbats? Or is it just going to be a similar style pace?
It depends on how aggressive adapting wants to play. You certainly can follow the Hunbats around and just bully him. You don't even need beads. If you time your regurgitate, you're going to be able to get away from that Fear No Evil and still try and chase down the Hunbats. So it could be oppressive. But if the Leviathans see their late game like I see it, I mean, Baba's only going to get better. Heimdallr, of course, only going to get better. They might just say, hey, we're just going to out-farm you. We're going to outpace you, and then we're going to play objectives. Make you group up a River's Rebuke, and then just win the team fight that way. That is certainly a possibility. Trying to force this immobile composition, the Hercules, the Baron, they're not going to be able to get out of that ult very easily unless they have the Phantom Shell. So maybe just some pressure there from the Leviathans.
Pressure. Honestly, it always shows up, it feels like, for the Leviathans. And specifically, Ronngyu playing Yemoja. You had mentioned that earlier. One that goes really well. Baron, you had said, in the best matchup there. And that's kind of the big, I guess, team fight point here. I look at Yemoja, I look at King Arthur, it feels really solid. I look at the Hercules, I'm really happy with that. Does Baron fit into this composition that well now that you can see all 5 of it? I mean, you mentioned the beads burn. Is that enough to warrant him over, I mean, all of the other picks that could have been there?
I'm not going to say that Baron was the best option, but I like it more than the Afro or the Hell because, again, it's got the CC, and wants to get in your face. It wants to get aggressive. Those other picks don't. They sit back and they farm. Bobby has never been that player. He's the one that goes to Herc support if he can, right? He wants the W key set up for his team or die trying. Baron can do that a lot easier than some of the other top meta supports, despite the fact, dude, is that true? 6% for Aphrodite?
I think that was
A bit of a stretch.
that was a bit of a stretch.
Okay,
You want me
so
to, I'll find it for you.
Well, point is, I can't call it top meta if it's that low of a win rate. Either way, everyone's picking the Afro, and in this case, I think the Baron provides more of what the Gladiators would want.
So it was 48 for all of Phase 1. But then when you get to, like, this event specifically, that tanks pretty hard to 17. So Afro, yeah, well, I mean, she's not even in this game. We don't have to worry about it. She's not here. She's not here for a reason. It's game 1. It's Leviathans. It's Gladiators. It's J-Mac, and it's Mifflin.
Thank you so much, Gore and Trelly on the desk. Game number 1 between the Leviathans and the Gladiators. This best of 5 of the playoffs kicks off now. This is the Leviathans' first showing here in the playoff tournaments. J-Mac, Miff, and Doug here in the action for game number 1. And I think I'll open up kind of with maybe some more of the discussion around the Baron Samedi pick, as we do get a little bit of a poll from Twitch chat. 58% in favor of the Leviathans, closer to that 60-40 mark for these talks. But how do you kind of feel about the Baron right now? Because we haven't been seeing a lot of success out of the Hell support, the Afro support either. Feels like Nox has completely fallen out of favor, at least at the time. What are your thoughts on Baron?
I had said, blanket statement, that I do not like mage supports. I'm just not a fan of them. Baron Samedi, I'll echo the sentiment that Trelly expresses. Better than Afro and Yemoja, or no, definitely not better than Yemoja. Oh my god, I can't believe that came out of my mouth. Better than Afro and Hell. But maybe not better than some of the other Guardian selections that were still available. Does have a good deal of in-combat healing, will at least have non-committal initiation in that you can just go into the life of the party and pray someone's there and nearby, and you can pull them forward. You've got bees burning in the rest of the draft as well, so I think it synergizes, namely with Kyrmi on this Hun bots. But it almost feels like I would prefer Chel support to Baron Samedi in that they both have the heal. But Chel also has the additional utility of giving over movement speed, more healing, things along those lines. We'll see how it pans out. It certainly is in the aggressive column, which I think Trelly is right to call out as well within the wheelhouse of Inbound.
Yeah, I mean, given a chance to talk to Bobby a little behind the scenes, you know, some of his favorite metas have been those more assassin support style of metas, the ones where you can get a little bit more active, a little more in your face to your opponents. Loves that W key style mentality. That's why things like the old Hercules support, Erlong Shen, also used to be in his wheelhouse for a little while as well. So maybe no surprise seeing that he would want to play maybe one of the more aggressive mage supports. And I wonder if that damage reduction that did come to Nox with this nerf in the 10.5 bonus, I wonder if that's the reason why we're seeing less for it. Dropped to, from I'm not mistaken, 40% to 30% on the damage dealing reduction. I personally wouldn't think that that would be enough, but maybe that 10% is just that valuable.
Could be. Nox felt like it was only like maybe half the league that was going towards her consistently in the first place, so one nerf might just be enough. I'm of the mind that Nox is still pretty good, but we haven't seen it at the competitive level just yet. And I wouldn't say that it's one of Bobby's favorites either. He loves playing those in-your-face style picks. I don't think Baron Samedi is exactly up there, but as far as mages are concerned, he's about as close as you're going to get to it. I'm curious about the Kyrmi selection, the Hun bots. I really expected Kyrmi to play something that is hyper-aggressive in the early game. When you break down the Gladiators and how they play as a team, it has always been, look, you know, these guys, they're not very consistent, but that Kyrmi guy is very good, and he loves getting active early on. Things like the Bakasura, the Vamana, run it down, get in your face, be the progenitor of aggression. Hun bots is not necessarily that. He's starting your fights for you, but it's major CC, facilitating the rest of the team. So with Kyrmi essentially taking a back seat from the hyper carry role here, you got to look elsewhere on the Gilded Gladiators to find that damage and find that consistency. It's time for Snoopy and Stu to step up.
Usually it is Kyrmi who wants to get those kills. Well, if he wants Stu to step up, well, there's a quick way for him to do so. Beads now away from Ronngyu. Maybe opens up a door if Kyrmi does hit that 5 within the next 2.5 minutes or so. Could make his route over towards the dual lane, trying to find a pick on the support. And talking about Ronngyu and Yemoja, I mean, we dial back even a year at this point, maybe even less than a year. We're talking about how Ronngyu, probably one of the best Yemojas, if not the best Yemoja in the league. There was a time where he was not allowed to ever handle this god. Meanwhile, other supports given a little bit more leniency.
So seeing him back on one of his best picks from seasons of past, I'll at least keep my eyes and focus attention over towards him in the duo.
Yeah, high expectations for Ronngyu and one of his signatures. I think he gets that identity of the Yemoja guy because Yemoja is just such a high skills floor character. Snoopy forced to flicker back into the tower, but avoids the blink damage from adapting there. Yemoja is such a high skill floor that when she was introduced to the game, a lot of the pros were struggling to figure out how they wanted to play it. Is it spam heal? Is it spam stun? Are you Riptide focused? And it felt like Ronngyu, before everyone else, really locked it down.
Kyrmi blinks in to fight adapting at the blue buff. It is stolen away by the Leviathans, and now maybe a fight breaking out with it as well. Security hit by the knockup. As fineokay dashes in, but that will be the end of the engagement. Seems that all cooldowns have been expended for the two members of the Leviathans. Gladiators break away from there. But Kyrmi using Blink to get to that blue buff fight. Maybe interesting from there, because he's still only sitting at level 3 going to that camp.
Yeah, he blinks because he wants to clear it as fast as possible. Knows the second adapting gets into range, the Eat minion beats out anything that Kyrmi has got. So just tries to close gap, make sure there is no invade, unfortunately for him. Even with that, not quite able to secure it for himself. Had he actually dropped the blue buff, would have ticked over to level 4 from it and could potentially try and look towards the fight afterward. But instead, a forced disengage off of a small loss there from the Gilded Gladiators. The Leviathans strike first. And you got to believe that that's what the Leviathans are going to be looking to do going forward. King Arthur is not a late-game god like he used to be, at least in my opinion. Feels like tanks aren't as tanky as they used to be. So you want to play around King Arthur's strong point, which is that early to early mid-game to late mid-game portion where he's just dealing a little bit more damage than some of these other warriors. A very in-your-face style pick, has good CC lockdown single target, could facilitate some ganks.
Now, right before we did pull in from the pause there on screen, I did notice that Kyrmi has now ticked over to that level 5. Beads were still about 45 or so seconds on Ronngyu, but maybe with how far away Kyrmi was, might be out of the question for him to make a full rotation over there in time for those beads to try and get a pick onto Ronngyu as a possibility. But if you are Kyrmi in this case and you're looking at the field ahead of you, seeing what options are available, who would even be maybe the best target to try and go for some of these early Fear No Evils?
I'm going to open myself up to some criticism here, J-Mag. I think Hunbots, and Thor finds himself in this category as well, just has good ganks on everybody. Fear No Evil is just that good of an ability. If you connect it and there are no beads, there's no counterplay. You're feared for however long, and if you're next to a wall, you're feared for the entire duration. Even tanks get shredded in that time. So Hunbots is more than anyone else an opportunistic god. If someone's out of position, Hunbots is going to punish you for it. It's very dissimilar to like gods that really are restricted in where they're allowed to get involved. Like when you have a Nemesis, you don't really want to deal with these like very safe picks because you can slow them down, but then they float away or something like that. Hunbots doesn't really struggle with that.
So maybe go over to dual lane, go to mid. Solo, maybe just wherever Kyrmi's feeling like getting some pressure. And I think maybe that then opens up the question of where is that pressure best allocated towards? You said maybe getting over to a dual lane, getting Stuart a little bit more involved, maybe coming over to the mid lane, try and get something going for Snoopy as well. So we'll see where Kyrmi tries to put some of that threat as we jump right back into the game here between the Leviathans and the Gladiators. Level 5 now hit for Inbound, which could be another way to maybe try and pull some beads away from some of these players on that Baron, that root combo that you can throw out for the root, the heal, and the laser all at the same time. You stack up some real easy damage and really stack up that Hysteria passive as well. Try and pull somebody into that coffin.
Could be. Inbound as well, likely going down that Prophetic Cloak tree. Baron Samedi, very good at stacking a Prophetic Cloak. Any one of the ranged supports going to have an easier time with it. Ronngyu won't be struggling either on the Yemoja if he elects to go down that path. I'm keeping my eyes on adapting. Already about an entire level lead on Kyrmi, and having finished the Golden Blade, a much faster build. Seems like it's Transcendence for Kyrmi in first slot. It's going to be a while till he finds the full value of that item. Need 50 stacks, whereas adapting already has some movement speed stacked up, one of the fastest jungle clears in the game, and you can see him trying to leverage it immediately. I imagine we see adapting on the Gilded Gladiator side of the map pretty consistently, just trying his best to fish out any farm that he can. Unfortunately for adapting, doesn't peek into that red buff, which I believe is still available there. Slight missed opportunity.
I'm surprised he didn't peek over there, or maybe the red buff could have still been sitting on the ground from the previous instance there. Yeah, that buff does sit on the ground for quite some time. I believe it's about 30 seconds before it resets itself back into the camp and then sits down for believe it's a whole other minute and a half, which is why I was asking some mid laners before, players, because we've been seeing Dardes grab like speed buff at the beginning of the game or a green buff at one point, saying, hey, what's going on with this? Why are you guys picking it? It says, well,
Ooh, watch out.
it stays so long in the ground. First opportunity of a gank is Kyrmi, and adapting gets ult for ult out of the junglers. And immediately the Leviathans who turn tail. Blue buff is open. 3-man stack to it. Not stolen away by Scary D. Uses his mobility to escape, but 3 surrounding him. Stun off the mark. fineokay lands his stun. Scary D,
move.
no mana, nowhere to go. And Ronngyu trying to body block through. One more shot, and fineokay's got it. It's first blood for the Leviathans.
Man, Scary D's pathing there. I think he could have just gotten to that tower a little bit sooner. Not certain why he decides to go all the way through that neutral camp. Leaves himself exposed for the Leviathans to rotate through, and they could have stayed in that tower for a good long while. Driving Strike not available, so Scary D no peel for himself. Get used to seeing that interaction, JMac, that jungler interaction of adapting, dropping the Regurgitate, and Kyrmi responding with Fear No Evil. That's a trade that adapting should be willing to make just about every single time, until there is actual threat of a turnaround fight. If Kyrmi has ability to threaten adapting, you'll be a bit more careful of it. But throughout this stage of the game, where it's just a self-peel tool, you just lose out on one of the best team fight tools on the side of the Gilded Gladiators, and adapting gets an easy trade.
Yeah, especially with how fast Kyrmi is on the reaction through. It actually looked like adapting immune to at least a little bit of it with his ultimate to keep himself active during that fight. But, I mean, the response time for the Leviathans, I think something to highlight there is as soon as that ultimate was taken away from Kyrmi, as soon as they saw Fear No Evil's down, Kyrmi doesn't want to fight, it was an immediate beeline by the Leviathans to that blue buff. Say, we got the last time, we're going right back to it. Unfortunately for Scary D, a little out of position trying to secure his own buff, throws the boulder a little bit late, and expends the rest of his mana just to try and survive during that initial onslaught afterwards, and then first blood over to Leviathan. So they take the first kill of the game to start things out, and giving it over to fineokay, a player who can run away with games, especially on a pick like King Arthur. It's one that he's gone to many times in the past when he wants to have maybe that carry style of solo.
And a trend is starting to develop in this match as well. That is the second attempted blue buff invade, successful for the Leviathans, now a kill, also in the Soul Laners column. So King Arthur should be able to hold his own in lane. I wonder now if the Leviathans decide, do we all in on this? Do we keep facilitating fineokay? Or is it time to rotate over towards that dual lane and get them involved, have Zapman get facilitated a bit? I could trust King Arthur with a lead like this, or not even King Arthur. I could trust fineokay, Alec Fonzo, with a lead like this to be able to hold his own. Scary D now has to dig himself out of this hole.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Scary D. And we've seen, at least for Scary D's God Pool, kind of develop over the course of this phase from the qualifiers, playing things more like the Assassins in solo, these more hyper carry style of hard damage dealers. Then the meta and him in general have had to adapt to the way that the new play style has gone through, sticking a little bit more towards the norm, towards the meta. Because, I mean, even talking with him during that qualifier, right after his team did come through, I asked him, I said, man, what's up with you playing these hyper carries? What's up with you playing these Kamazot style of games over there? He said, yeah, playing the tanks is just kind of boring. I'm having fun dealing all this damage, but he's had to jump himself a little bit more in towards the meta. We do need to take ourselves a quick little break while we sort out some of our tech issues, and we'll be back hopefully in just a few moments.
Never gonna tell you that will probably impel you. If you know everything about it, you are not gonna like it. But 2 words, then you got it. And 2 minutes later, we didn't know we had started a mind that could speak to another. The sign to constantly see through each other. You love that, you know that. 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 I have thought about this moment. Really thought I could control it. So many chances I have blown. At least I'm not doing it alone. 'Cause 2 words, then you got it. And 2 minutes later, we didn't know what we had started. Our mind that can speak to another. Designed to constantly see through each other. You love that, you know that. You love that, you know that. You love that, you know that.
Hello, everyone. Appreciate your patience. Just want to give you an update onto the state of the game right now. We did run into a bug in the game that could compromise the competitive integrity of the game, and so the players are going to be going through with a full remake here in the first game. We weren't that far to it, so the players are going to go ahead and go with a remake. Once we are in the game and we can ensure that there are no issues with the game, we'll be coming right back to you guys with that one, so make sure you stick around for that one. Again, apologies for the delay. We want to make sure that the players are playing on the best competitive integrity that they can. So make sure you stick around. We'll be back as soon as we are ready to hop into game number 1. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience, but we are ready to jump back into game number 1 between the Leviathans and the Gladiators and have themselves duke it out here in their best of 5 in the SPL playoffs. Once again, it's J-Mac, it's Mifflin, and it's Doug here once more for game number 1, and then set to see how things can now pan out, given some of the prior knowledge, at least, of what we saw just prior before this one. And Mifflin, gonna be tough for the Gladiators. I mean, you mentioned earlier on how Kyrmi on one of these kinds of picks, not gonna be able to get as hyperactive as he might usually get on picks like the Bakasura, Susano, even the Fenrir. Maybe a little bit more of a laid-back style of play for this Hun Batz.
I think so, but now with some knowledge needs to get active on the right-hand side of the map. I imagine the Leviathans continue their play style, facilitating fineokay through the soul lane, so Kyrmi better be prepared. Prevent some of those invades. Otherwise, yes, it's going to take a little while for Hun bots as opposed to maybe the bread and butter of Kyrmi's god pool. So I'd said it's time for Snoopy and Stuart to start lifting some of that weight for their team. Inbound as well can shore it up a bit with some of the aggressive damage-dealing potential of a Baron Samedi out of support. But on the other end, the Leviathans, they figured out stuff that works. We'll see if they can run it back.
Yeah, see if they can make those aggressive blue buff invades like they have before and like we've seen many times just on Bakasura picks in general. And then obviously with how early that this King Arthur can get active in the solo lane. Saw it's a little bit earlier on, but Kyrmi now on the receiving end of the damage. And fineokay pushed back by Scary D. Low health bars on a couple of fronts here. One on the Leviathan's end and the Gladiators, their jungler falling a bit low.
Yeah, tough start now. Kyrmi's got plenty of potions in pocket thanks to that Baron's Brew that he should be able to resustain pretty quickly. Not the same as a standard HP pot, though. Splits it up. It's going to take a little bit longer to heal, but should have generally more available to him than he would have otherwise. What does Adapting do at this time? Decides to hover in mid. Could potentially make a rotation over towards the neutral camp on right-hand side, or just try and control neutral form towards the center of the map. But for now, Adapting is certainly much stronger than Kyrmi. Just does a little bit more than the Hun bots does at this portion of the game. It will be a neutral camp rotation on both sides. Kyrmi over to the left, Adapting to the right.
So Kyrmi going for one bit. Adapting trying to go for an early kill on the Scary D, but without an ultimate, no real way to lock down Scary D. Even fineokay not having access to ultimate either, so stun, cripples removed from the equation, at least in the first few levels for Leviathans. But Scary D low, one more shot. Not quite enough damage from fineokay. Maybe had he been a little bit closer and got that bonus damage in the melee range, could have gotten that first blood on Scary D.
Yeah, that's tough. But being able to force him back there, significant. Get that teleport off him very early. Means that fineokay will have an opportunity now to maybe clear one more wave, go back to base, spend up his gold, heal up completely, maybe apply some poke to Scary D before you do all that, and then teleport back in the lane just as his blue buff starts to spawn up. See him going for it now. Should be able to rotate back in fast enough. Scary D able to stop his back, and it's Kyrmi on the right-hand side trying to prevent what had happened previously, Adapting, already hovering near that blue.
Kyrmi sees this. fineokay now pushed back and dealing with some of the damage from the minions and Scary D. Kyrmi might just give up the buff instead and try and go for a pick to fineokay, but he's just a little late on trying to get there to slow him down.
This is dangerous.
Now fineokay might go for a chase on the Kyrmi. I don't know if he saw Scary D walk up
he
behind him,
knows.
but in the 2v1, we'll have to be careful. Has a one ranged ability to try and take it, but just misses out on the timing of it. It's a blue buff invade for the Gladiators, but Adapting's going to get a blue buff plus a little bit extra speed buff on the menu for Adapting.
We'll see if Kyrmi's able to answer in kind on the opposite side. We'll make eyes on the neutral camp, but Sheento, as always, when farm's available and it's justifiable, will take that speed experience away. A smart play just to prevent Kyrmi from getting anything done on the opposite side. Adapting is going to have overall less experience than he would have had he just cleared out his own camps in SMITE. When you take away from your enemies, it's worth a little bit less, but worth it in that your enemy gets nothing. And so, Adapting should be slightly ahead of Kyrmi now. Good play. Good wherewithal from Sheento to make that play, too.
I wonder where fineokay is going to go in his build, because typically when we see the physical defense options at least available to the soul lane, we see things like Glad Shield or Breastplate of Regrowth, but without healing, fineokay doesn't benefit from there. Maybe Adapting can benefit from a level 5 gank onto Kyrmi. jump right on top of him, throws out the ultimate, and should be a first blood, unless Inbound has something to say about it, roots him in place. And maybe now a turnaround. Snoopy's on the way, but Ronngyu there with the bailout of Riptide to get Adapting out.
Man, I loved that play from Adapting too. Holds on to the lead for as long as possible, tries to force the defensive lead from Kyrmi by popping his own wing shard. Kyrmi eventually does so, but fortunately for him, Inbound on the way back from base, able to meet up and keep him alive. That was narrow margins. Maybe one more auto attack, all Adapting would have needed to secure that kill. And that's the difference maker, and that's something Adapting has always been good at, just finding these small opportunities.
Zapman getting pulled back through. Will take the double stun from both Stu and Inbound and use the beads after the second one goes through before he tries to make his escape. Inbound gets the root but misses the laser. Ultimate from Stu's not enough, and the banner just short of hitting Zapman through. The DR that came from all of that CC prior may have been the one bailout for Zap.
I wonder, why does Adapting let that all happen, or not Adapting, excuse me, Zapman let that all happen? Had he just ulted defensively off rip, you release maintain your beads instead. Allows that chain CC combo, realizes maybe too late how much damage is headed his way after the EI Jutsu from Stuart. Forced to use the beads and then the ultimate. That is a lot of lost safety for potentially the safest hunter in the game. Time now for the Gilded Gladiators and Kyrmi to make that rotation. Hunbots, very good at dealing with gods without their ultimate and their beads, and Zapman finds himself without both.
That looked like a pretty decent distance on his Bifrost as well, so could be a big opening for Kyrmi should he make his way over, but at the moment, wants to deal with the speed buff that got stolen away by Adapting prior. Make sure he can get that experience. fineokay going to do solo lane thing to King Arthur, picks up Scary D into the sky with the ultimate, and will continue to poke him out with some of these abilities. It's actually Sovereignty in first slot for fineokay, something we saw a little bit when King Arthur came back to meta, get a lot of HP 5 to his name. Something we just haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, fineokay has been very vocal recently about saying how he feels like a support, and I think maybe leaning into it now with that Sovereignty in first slot. It's a good deal of survivability. You're double dipping on defense against your lane opponent and the jungler Inbound. No man's land. This is tough.
Inbound stuck inside the wall, but now with Kyrmi on the way, a fast Bifrost out by Zapman will bail him out of danger. Still 60 seconds though on the beads for Zap. Could be an opportunity for Kyrmi, but he'll give up on his shot over on the left side of the map. Inbound does get a heal up against Ronngyu, so that will get him a little bit more HP from that engagement. And maybe the only reason that Inbound doesn't die there is that rotation from Kyrmi, that threat of the Hunbats.
It's two-pronged, right? Zapman concerned about initiating due to the fact that Kyrmi is showing up nearby, appears on that ward, but also you just don't want to play all that aggressive when you don't have beads in general, right? And have to hold on to your ultimate, likely to use defensively. If Zapman has both available there, likely that he commits for the kill. Seemed like Ronngyu really wanted to get aggressive, but instead, it's a reset back to neutral. So we crest that 7-minute mark. fineokay picks up Scary D. Adapting's here.
Adapting does drop down the ultimate. A couple more autos will do it, but he's just a little too slow to do so. Unable to lock down Scary D again. Scary D will just barely be able to walk away through only about 200 HP or less at that point to his name. That physical defense paying off in dividends for him, keeping himself just tanky enough to deal with both Fino and Adapting.
Tanky and fast, right? Pop the heal, get a little bit of additional movement speed. Scary D able to leverage that to escape not only Adapting's passive, which gives him additional movement speed, but also that wing shard pop, making him a bit faster as well. Clearly the Hercules hyper mobile already, and going even further down the defensive tree becomes even more difficult for Adapting to get involved on that side of the map. Once you're 2 items deep into a build like this in the soul lane, I think it's time to cut losses on ganks, and that goes for both of them. fineokay as well, going down that round shield tree. They're going to be very tanky, these soul laners, at least against the physicals. And it's unlikely that Snoopy or Sheento will be making that rotation anytime soon, barring maybe a fight around a blue buff. So I'd like to see both Adapting and Kyrmi get a bit more involved either towards mid or duo soon.
fineokay and Scary D, they'll have their scraps over on the solo lane. Scary D's abilities will hit maybe a little bit harder than fineokay's, but Fino will just have more abilities to use to try and match that damage output. So I wonder where Adapting goes beyond here. Ganks on a Scary D aren't working anymore. He's a little too tanky. Hasn't really seen any presence over on the left side of the map from Adapting just yet. It's really been a solo lane focus. You think that maybe now that these ganks are going a bit south on the right side of the map, maybe focus attention over towards mid a little bit more?
I think so. It's really difficult for adapting to actually deal with Stuart thanks to that ultimate from Hachiman. We saw that he can't keep up with Scary D and his movement speed. Good luck chasing him when he's on the horse. So instead, maybe rotations towards Snoopy. We've also seen Bakasura players really just all in on the hyper farm in the jungle style of play. Really mobile, able to steal away enemy camps. Anytime you clear out one of those minions, you're going to become a little bit faster thanks to that passive. Small skirmish on the right-hand side will result in the buff taken by fineokay, who has been having a good time so far in this lane. The King Arthur matchup looking pretty decent here into the Hercules. Now on the left, Kyrmi's shown a propensity to rotate here. Could be the first time he actually makes contact with Zap.
Will throw out the overhead smash, but not able to secure the buff. Inbound on the way, and fast double riptide out. One of the hardest duos to catch in that regard. Once Yemoja does have a few Omi available for the riptide. Sheento in the ultimate, maybe just to get away from Snoopy or try and bait him forward, but fast flicker out, get Snoopy away, but now that opens the door for adapting, who's just chomping away, but a fear no evil will keep adapting out, yet Sheento's got a potion toss over the wall, and it's a first blood for Leviathans.
Adapting now, has got eyes for Inbound in the Gold Fury pit, good damage, River's Rebuke, able to buy a little bit of space, but it's Inbound turning things around. But has he done too much?
Inbound's got to be careful. Zapman's cutting off his one path, but Zapman doesn't go for the ultimate on Inbound. Instead, it's to escape. And Kyrmi standing by, even without a Fear No Evil. Just enough threat from Kyrmi, from Inbound, and Stu standing by. No ults available for the 3, but still enough threat. Zapman's got to be careful. He has beads. Bifrost gets him at least away from Inbound for the time being. Now Inbound being slowed down, not just by Ronngyu, but by Zapman as well. Might force the duo back a bit.
You know, I'm noticing a difference in mentality between these junglers right now. Adapting 3-4 times already this game has dropped the ultimate and said, look, I'm gonna get something. You're either gonna give me your ultimate, you're gonna give me your beads, or you're gonna give me your life, and this time it's the life that he's able to strip away with the help of Sheento, securing the kill onto Snoopy. But in that skirmish on the left-hand side, when I said maybe this is the opportunity for Kyrmi to make contact with Zapman, holds on to his own ultimate, doesn't use the Fear No Evil, even though there's a double stack of Ronngyu and Zap, even had Inbound on the rotation in. Someone's going to have to burn these relics. And when I say there's a facilitator, and Hunbots is a phenomenal facilitator, true, if their relics are down, Fear No Evil, great as a CC tool. It's also one of the most threatening CC tools in the game to burn away those resources. Get rid of the ultimate from Zapman. Get rid of those beads, and then on next rotation, maybe you hit Pay Dirt, or Stu can do it on his own, or rotate mid and force something off Sheento, and maybe Snoopy will find an opportunity. But so far, it seems as if Kyrmi is very much so just waiting and waiting for this perfect opportunity, saying, Inbound, have you burnt the beads, Scary, or beads down anywhere on the right side of the map? And he wants to be the secondary. He wants to be the follow-up on it. Whereas I think just having him get active could do so much for the Gladiators.
Well, Leviathan's going to go for a Pyromancer. Can they secure it? No. One tick of the Blizzard from Snoopy over the wall will steal that one away. So Pyromancer, credit for the secure, goes over to the Gilded Gladiators mid laner. Just damage over the wall for the Merlin. A couple items through. Divine Ruin procs popping through as well. Takes that one away.
And a real casual rotation from Inbound to add a little bit more comedy to it to pick up that Runic Bomb. What do you do with the Runic Bomb? So often the conversation is it a worthwhile trade? You went for Pyromancer, the other team went for the Gold Fury. This time it's an easy steal for the Gilded Gladiators with 0 cost to them. The Leviathans now considering a rotation towards that Gold Fury. Realize that there is Oracle Vision for the Gladiators, so there won't be any opportunities there. We'll see. We're starting to reach that point now with the composition from the Gladiators where their 4-on-4 or even 5-on-5 is going to be very strong. They've got great dive potential, front-to-back support from Inbound on this Baron Samedi, and decent targets to start looking at. I'd like to see the Gilded Gladiators even attempt to group up and force a fight potentially around this Gold Fury. Then we don't even have to have a conversation about who's got better secure. It's the team with Runic Bomb. That's 1,000 true damage right there.
Inbound spots out Ronngyu. Pumps a little damage his way, but nothing that Ronngyu can't heal back up. At least with his own kit, though it might take him a little while to do so. The heal not fully leveled up, not at quite full strength just yet. We've also been seeing a lot of Runibombs used for Tier 1 towers. You know, they get gold, we get Pyro, and we'll take that Pyro Runic Bomb immediately to Tier 1, either take it out entirely or drop it down to critical health. That way maybe next rotation through we can take it, but For now, the Gladiators going to hold on to it. Inbound will keep that in pocket, just in case they want to get aggressive in one of the lanes, or maybe try and go for this Gold Fury. But there's really been no eyes towards that objective. It's only been this Pyromancer for that brief second, and Snoopy was able to stop that from the Leviathans.
And I like where the Leviathans have placed their wards, J-Mac. They may not control the Gold Fury pit itself, but they'll know any time the Gilded Gladiators even attempt to rotate in towards it. Very strong defensive wards there. Zapman should feel very safe in this lane. Can start to look out to apply a bit of that pressure, I believe. Won't be winning out in the boxing match just yet. Hachiman, of course, just receives a ton of buffs to his ability to box, additional attack speed, additional damage on that first ability, but also has a slight itemization advantage as well. Balance blade as opposed to the light blade for Zapman on the other side. The more you sit on this runic bomb, I think opportunities continue to be lost here for the Gilded Gladiators and Leviathans, I think. Happy to just rest on their laurels and continue to farm up and nurse this minuscule 100 or so gold lead. Inbound in first. Who's he got? He's pulled adapting back in. No leap available, so you'll have to use the beads.
Beads at the last moment there for adapting. He was maybe meters away from being hit by the stun, but that seems to have given the Gladiators just enough opportunity to try and go for this Gold Fury. Scaredy's made the rotation. They've got vision, at least from the Oracles. Inbound is doing his best to zone, but he's just one person. The Gladiators do get it. fineokay, though, now to the backline has found Snoopy, gets the beads out of the Merlin, and will continue spinning his way to the backline. And Scaredy's getting batted away by the rest of the Leviathans. Fear No Evil bails him out, but a Rebuke catches 3 out. Kyrmi and Scary have nowhere to go. They're both down, and now it's a turnaround on to Inbound. 3 picks for the Leviathans.
There is an imposter among us, J-Mac, and it is Scary D who hand delivers a triple kill to the Leviathans. All you had to do was not push Ronngyu into your own backline. That is ridiculous. Vote him off the island. That is wild. The disengage was there. Kyrmi hits a 4-man Fear No Evil as a getaway card. Just drops his oil in the street. You'd skid out trying to chase him. Unfortunate, man. That is ridiculous. The Leviathans, they are given a windfall of luck there. Scary D has got to be kicking himself.
Hand-delivered triple to the Leviathans.
I can't believe that.
Wild. And it could have just been a thing where he's saying, okay, I'm going to get the push, and there's going to be follow-up from my team. We're just going to kill him. But unfortunately, he pushed Ronngyu, and they went, well, he's full HP. I don't know if we can kill that guy. And, well, then they eat a River's Rebuke, locks in 2. Locks in 3, actually. Inbound able to just barely snake out there before he falls at the end of it. And now the Leviathans, even after having the Gold Fury taken from under their noses, still come out on top with a lead.
Pyro stolen, Gold Fury taken, Leviathans ahead. That is a crazy turn of events. Man, the Gilded Gladiators, they must have been so happy with that disengage as well. Didn't have to use the runic bomb for confirmation because Inbound had literally zoned 3 for about 10 seconds on his own on their rotation in towards the Gold Fury. Just a small fumble towards the tail end there. Not so far out of control just yet. It's only about 1,000 or so gold separating these teams. Experience largely even. Biggest disparity is out of that jungle. Adapting has put himself in a very good position. 17 to the 14 of Kyrmi. Otherwise, 1 level here or there for the Leviathans. The Gilded Gladiators are certainly capable of still fighting in.
Flicker away from Snoopy, but that could just be the last thing Snoopy gets to do. Stance swap, but no Aegis, no beads, and Chel already used and burned right through. Snoopy now down, and Zapman going for a solo kill onto Inbound, but Zapman misses a couple too many auto attacks, and Inbound will be able to snake his way back to the Tier 1 tower. Small missed opportunity from Zapman over on that side, but it's at least afforded to him by the pressure put in mid.
Yeah, it seems like the Leviathans can just keep up their pressure on tower. Adapting, hovering nearby. It's just Stu trying to clear out those waves. Keep your eyes on Ronngyu. He's got that ultimate available. If they step out of line, the Gilded Gladiators, that is, could find themselves in a very poor position. Kyrmi as well. He's got fineokay on the chase, but he just wants the farm.
We'll try and steal away the Harpy camp. Kyrmi gonna grab at least one of them away. Throw up in the ultimate by fineokay, and that's only half of Kyrmi's HP. Held on to the bead, still has his blink and his ultimate as well, so we'll be fine for the next engagement. It never feels good when the soul laner's just standing at your back camp between 2 of you taking your farm away.
I'm still reeling, man. I'm still thinking about that push from Scary D. That just so crazy to imagine how different the game state is The Leviathans, had they just lost on the gold field, would have been a slight lead for the Gilded Gladiators right now, and they wouldn't have been able, the Leviathans that is, to just push down a tier 1 tower on the left side. It wouldn't be fineokay just accosting Kyrmi at his own back camps. Feels like the Leviathans have all the momentum as of now. Sheento slightly off the mark there on inbound, had that damage connected potentially. Could have continued the chase. Seems like both teams will be slowing down the pace here. We'll have a POI respawning just now. Primal Fury back on the map. The Leviathans could show some presence. One Runic Bomb has been expended by the Gilded Gladiators, but one maintained in the pocket of Kyrmi. So Superior secure over to the Glads, but at this point, I don't imagine we see them going for a contested objective.
Starts out 5-0 now for the Leviathans. About a 2,000 gold lead up.
Man, Sheento can't help himself. He's level 20 taking it away. That's crazy.
20 before 20, not the easiest feat, at least in today's farming standards. So able to get that there pretty nicely for himself, but man, the fact that the Gladiators have gotten 2 Pyromancers and a Gold Fury for themselves, it's still just not enough to keep their head above water as far as the gold chart is concerned. Leviathans holding on to that with their kills, with what their follow-up has been. Nearly all tier 1 towers taken off the map, just barely holding on the right. Maybe a possible pick here. Scary D, though, misses. Kyrmi gets a 4-man Fear, able to separate the team, but not enough follow-up through. fineokay is able to spin away with the team, but pushed against the wall by Scary D. Now he's trying to get the return set of play, but the river keeps fineokay from going out. Kyrmi dives to the back and gets the 1 kill for the Gilded Gladiators. Another double push by Scary D. He's setting up for the team now, but is going to get picked off, thrown to the sky by Zap, and likely dead on landing. No, he had just enough HP. It ends out on a 1-for-1 trade.
Redemption plays there for Scary D. Multi-man, multiple pushes as well. The Gilded Gladiators needed that opportunity, forcing back the Leviathans who were getting aggressive around that Primal Fury. I think just looking for a bit of poke there, but weren't quite able to connect with those priority targets. We'll see if adapting could doctor the situation.
Diving in, but he's taking too much damage from Stu. He dives in. Stu might even find the 2v2. That's a double.
Yes, sir.
For Stu. Gilded Gladiators right back in it with a big play from Stu. Can they get to back base in time? Yes, they can. The potion a little too slow from Sheento.
Stu just did not miss a single auto attack there. That's what I've been talking about with Hachiman's ability to just box. That first ability, the buff that it has received, his damage output is just crazy at this point. And it even stacks up a bit that with that additional damage from Odysseus Bow, just charging between the two of them. The Gilded Gladiators, one opportunity is all it takes. Will be a Fire Giant pull here. fineokay is nearby. He should know about this. Maybe he doesn't have a path in.
Ronngyu doesn't have ult. The Gilded Gladiators capitalize off of one team fight. It started out as a 1-for-1 trade. Leviathans lose out on one of theirs. The Gilded Gladiators pick off another. Right in response is jungle for jungle. And now immediately, the Gilded Gladiators pick up a double off the tail end just from the sheer confidence of Stu to step up. This is why fans were cheering his name at Worlds. That's why we had to keep hearing Stu the entire time during Worlds. If there's step-up plays like this, the Gladiators won't stop with just one Fury. They're going to grab themselves their second one of the game. Primal Fury now to their belts.
Yeah, that's a big reality check for adapting as well, realizing if he wants to deal with the Hunter of the Gilded Gladiators, it's going to require Regurgitate to eat up some of those auto attacks for him. Now, adapting, though, has finished up that Blood Forge, so some lifesteal should help his odds in the 1v1 should another one occur. The Gilded Gladiators have got very strong siege potential, J-Mac. Anytime a Merlin is on your team and the game simplifies these enclosed spaces around structures, towers, or phoenixes, that persistent damage on field really finds a lot of its value. Stu as well, giving over additional attack speed, not only to himself, but also to his allies with the Heavenly Banner, means that they should be able to make short work of the remaining structures, and there are plenty of them. 1.5 minutes to play with, and 5 towers still standing. Seems like it's going to be a swath across the map, starting on right, over towards left for the Gilded Gladiators. But the Leviathans won't be grouping up for a defense. We see this so often from the Camelot Kings and the Leviathans. The best defense is a good offense. Let's see if we can stop their push by pushing ourselves. Tier 2 on left, being taken. Significant grouping in mid. Could threaten the Tier 2 here as well, but it's a thin knife's edge they're traversing. Stick around too long, try and do too much, you might just lose your Phoenix.
Scary D will show up and scare adapting away from Tier 2. Zapman able to grab the one on the left side of the map. Let's trade out for Tier 1 and Tier 2 over in the solo lane. Still 3 structures left standing for the Gladiators to try and knock back down. They effectively take this game back in their control. 2,000 gold up for this team. Experience still in favor of the Leviathans. Only slightly, though, as the level 20 start coming through. Really, the only big difference is Kyrmi not level 20, doesn't have access to that upgraded starter just yet. Kyrmi's so far away from the team, it's going to take him at least another solid 10 seconds before he's back up with, but Leviathan's not one to pull the trigger on this potential one-man advantage that they have. Instead, it's a slow play by the Gladiators at Tier 2.
Yeah, I think the Leviathans are going to play the poke game until Fear No Evil goes down. Once Fear No Evil has been dropped, that's your all-in. If you've survived it, go ahead, start chasing out the Gilded Gladiators. But we saw what had happened previously when they decided to chase into the Gladiators with it still available. I believe it was a 4-man ultimate from Kyrmi twice so far this game. Has really picked up his pace in the back half. Gilded Gladiators won't continue their siege, though. I thought they had enough time, especially with Runic Bomb in pocket. They could have threatened that Tier 2, but a lot of respect to the Leviathans. The Gladiators will reset themselves. They have not done enough, I think, to just feel like they're advantaged to pull the Fire Giant. A little bit of gold here or there. Kyrmi finally taking over to level 20. We'll get that Protector of the Jungle for himself. But it's not a, hey, we're so far ahead, let's force a fight on the Fire Giant. It's, okay, we got a slight lead, let's see what we can do with it.
Gladiators now with their Fire Giant buff gone. We'll wait until that one respawns, and with the game as even as it is, with the map state standing as is, unlikely the Gladiators find a Fire Giant without at least a couple of picks to their name. Ronngyu, Zapman, they'll step forward. Ronngyu caught out and poked by Inbound a little bit. Still trying to get the rest of those prophetic stacks up. Actually skipped his second item in leveling it up. Instead gone for the Heart Ward, Emperor's Armor, upgrades his starter as well. I wonder what was maybe under his mind as an option there. Gotta imagine maybe something like Spectral and seeing Adapting didn't go any crit could have maybe stopped his build there. At least to me, that's the only thing that immediately makes sense.
Could be that. Speaking of itemization, J-Mac, I'm looking at anti-heal from the Leviathans, and fortunately for them, they finally get a bit of it. Sheento, Divine Ruin to close out that build. Otherwise, just about none for them. It's been a lot of healing, a lot of damage into fineokay. You cannot move. The door is stuck. I mean, that is every bit of CC and every effective ultimate, barring Stu, from the Gilded Gladiators. But removing the tank and front line from the Leviathans might be just enough. 2 bombs in pocket. Ronngyu stepping up. It's time to pull the fire.
Zap and Sheento right behind. Fire Giant still not pulled by the Gladiators. They've only got another 30 seconds till fineokay can teleport right back into the fight. Kyrmi.
What hit him?
What just
Gotta be Sheento.
what if Sheento, which of Sheento's 2 abilities did he throw out to smack him there? Maybe it was one of those potions. Those things hit hard, especially the fact he's already 5 full items of damage. Got to mention the fact that he has fully stacked up his prophetic cloak, that he went in that 3rd damage item slot. So not hitting as hard as most mages would with a full build, but still hitting very hard on the Baba Yaga.
Surprised to see that from the Gilded Gladiators. If you're still not confident in your ability to do the Fire Giant, you could have at least potentially pushed that Tier 2 tower with the 45-second window that fineokay was off the map. Instead, it's a reset and able to grab that Primal Fury on the left, but with no threat on right, fineokay gets to hold on to his teleport. So the Gilded Gladiators, if they want another opportunity like that, they'll have to do it all over again. Those ultimates are coming back up, though. Fortunate for them, CDR stacks for Kyrmi and Inbound a bit should help out. The Gilded Gladiators, 5 strong once more. Gold lead about 1,000 higher than it was previously on the last Fire Giant dance. Could look to force out a fight once more. fineokay has learned a valuable lesson, though, and that is he is not able to tank all 5 members of the Gilded Gladiators. He can do 3. He might even be able to do 4, but not all 5.
No, it's too much damage as a combo from the Gladiators. Now Leviathan's stepping forward, and even with all the defense Inbound has, you can see how much that Sheento's able to slowly whittle away from him. Fire Giant started, Rongyu's here, adapting on the flank.
Oh, Zap.
Look at how far Zapman bifrosts back over. That's going to be a hefty cooldown for him. He might not need it right now. Sheento's ultimate forced out. Inbound down to half HP. Gets a heal for his team, and Sheento forced the beats and ages early in the fight. A Fear No Evil collapsed by Kyrmi is not going to be enough. He needs more damage, and he doesn't have it. Sheento lives for
the
the
shields.
Ronngyu shield comes through. Scary D can't get the job done either. Sheento lives through with 2 kills for the Leviathans.
Man, Zapman makes the hard decision to bifrost all the way across the map, and it pays off. His damage output enough to stop Kyrmi and Scary D in that back line. My heart goes out to Kyrmi. nearly has the damage to finish off Sheento, forced to take that DPS race. The leap goes off, he dies, and unfortunately for Kyrmi in the game of chicken, he has lost. Gilded Gladiators 3 strong, hesitate to even say strong with Inbound at 50%, staring at the fire.
Inbound finds the Rooper. Rongyu's got a river to lock him in. That separates him from the rest of his team. Inbound still alive, drops the Runic Bomb to try and take it away, but does not do so. Leviathans get the Fire Giant, a pick onto Inbound, and the carries are left running. Ronngyu cannot close in the gap to grab them, but 3 kills, Fire Giant on 5, and the Leviathans have turned this game back around.
Massively desynced death there from Inbound means 50 seconds in the grayscale with 5 strong legitimately from the Leviathans, all full HP thanks to the efforts of Ronngyu. Can start their siege on the right-hand side. I'd like to see them continue it, and they will. Scary D, so important here. Needs to find a significant pull. Keep your eyes on Kyrmi as well. Fear no evil, all important. But the Leviathans, they're going to go ahead and let off the gas. Why risk it? You just won a team fight, took an objective, and there's more to be taken on the map. Pyromancer quickly respawning. They don't have timer on it, but those red buff is going to be back up very shortly as well. It's a massive swing for the Leviathans. And once more, it's a great ultimate to start that fight, isn't it? From the Gilded Gladiators, Kyrmi locks down Sheento post-relics. Just not enough. Nobody following up. Nobody able to close that gap. No one willing to walk past fineokay. And the Leviathans, piecemeal, take apart the Gilded Gladiators.
This game started out as a 5-0 lead for Leviathans. Well, it's not quite the same now, but it's still a 5-kill lead for the team. The Gilded Gladiators, they were able to make their comeback just off of a few picks. A bad fight around the Gold Fury from the Leviathans. Now Levi's have firmly put this game back in their control, at least as far as Fire Giant to no Fire Giant is concerned, but map state is even aside from one tier 2 tower. No Phoenix is knocked down. Leviathan's effectively nullifying anything, and the efforts of the Gladiators at this point. It may be unlikely that we see a full Phoenix siege. Still a minute 10 to play with. fineokay and adapting could work towards this tier 2 tower. Scary D standing by. Might be the one to go for a lone defense and might just give this one up. At least as long as he knows that adapting is standing by.
Yeah, the Gilded Gladiators have got very strong base defense, so you don't want to risk the game getting picked on a tier 2 tower. Between Merlin and Hunbots, just massive no-play zones that the Leviathans will have difficulty navigating. So, no surprise to the Gilded Gladiators grouping on their birds and waiting for the Leviathans. Leviathans, ever the veteran team, will take as much on the map as they can with this first Fire Giant siege. Every tower now gone, every single neutral objective taken by them as well. But not enough time to start looking towards the birds. Not enough time to put themselves about 2,000 or so gold in the lead, but this late in the game, 32 minutes, it's really only upgraded relics, maybe a power pot here or there. They're going to be separating the Leviathans from the Gilded Gladiators. It's a true 6 slot as well, about parity in the support builds, otherwise everyone else fully developing their builds. This is a dead even game, J-Mac. The only difference is map state. If the Leviathans win out a team fight cleanly, it'd be much easier for them to end the game, but the Gilded Gladiators capable as well. It's time to put up defense around the Fire Giant. I don't love the Leviathan's ability to do Fire Giant in the face of the Gladiators. They've got better secure with no runic bombs, and even with a runic bomb, it is in the pocket of the Leviathan, so even further boosts their secure. But the threat of steel and just tick damage has been rearing its head a bit too often for my liking. If Snoopy's allowed to close gap, feels like Ice Storm enough of a threat that the Leviathans will try and take the fight first.
So Leviathans trying to push in with Gladiators. Stand firm to the backside of their jungle. Scary D. Walks right by Ronngyu. Doesn't go for a push this time.
He learned his lesson.
He's having PTSD from earlier, having a little bit of a flashback moment saying, last time I pushed this guy into my team, that didn't go so well, but did redeem himself in the team fight after. Found a couple of really strong pushes to set up for the 1-for-1, and then later an extra double kill, a 4-2 stew from that pressure. But Gilded Gladiators now having trouble even stepping forward to this Fire Giant because the Leviathans are zoning out as best they can. It will be actually a Contagion now finished up for Inbound, some extra anti-heal afforded to him. But now what could the Gilded Gladiators even do? I mean, it feels like for them, they just want to sit back and wait for this fire to get pulled.
A hurry up and wait situation for the Gilded Gladiators. The Leviathans have to be the aggressors here. They're the ones with the lead and the defensive positioning, so if they want something started, they're going to have to pull that trigger. With Fire Giant not pulled, there's not really a whole lot of reason for the Gilded Gladiators to step up. Could wait for some unforced errors, adapting, putting pressure on map by pushing through mid. Could go for a roundabout play, but it's just a staring contest for now.
Scaredy just misses the pickup onto Ronngyu with that Earthbreaker. Instead,
Not
it's
great.
Fear No Evil onto fineokay. And fineokay's doing just dandy himself. Adapting blinks into the backline of 3, drops his ultimate. Now he's going to be on the run for himself, but Stu's got to chase down Snoopy. Rooster Butte does catch out inbound, but immediately use that coffin for the damage reduction, and now Ronngyu trying to get out as best he can. Kyrmi poked out
got
by
the slow.
Sheento, but now Kyrmi's losing the battle. fineokay's going to
Double
slam
pull.
him down. Ronngyu, it's a 2-for-2 trade, and fineokay on the run from 4. The Gilded Gladiators chasing themselves right back in, and fineokay might just be out. Zapman and Sheento trying to bat away at the healthier members of the Gladiators.
Scary D's got chase, but he hasn't got healthy allies, so won't be looking for Zapman or Sheento here. Zapman healthy, can prevent some backs. The silence on the Scary D stops the driving strike, and fineokay has made the rotation back in.
Oh no, he's healthy again.
He shouldn't have the damage for inbound, though.
Scary D against 2 might have been the non-ideal target to push there. Zapman is the one dealing the damage to you. And now the Leviathans have turned this around. It was 2-for-1 for the Gladiators, and Scary D sticks around a little too long. Makes it a 2-for-2, but maybe more importantly, Miff, look at the staggered cooldown there. Nearly 35 seconds between Scary and Kyrmi's respawns.
Yeah, the Leviathans now a significant opportunity to look towards the Fire Giant. Fortunately for the Gilded Gladiators, major parts of the team fight still available. Scary D great at starting the engagement, but the Fire Giant will do that for you in a situation like this. So, Kyrmi, Snoopy, Inbound, and Stu. The 4-man core of the Gilded Gladiators. They're going to have to put up a defense around the Fire Giant. Scary D has access to teleport on respawn. It's been a slow pull from the Leviathans. They've got about 15 seconds to play with here. It takes 5 seconds to teleport. There are plenty of wards.
Fire Giant down to half. Inbound shows up. Heal just off the mark. Damage from Zapman. It's been delayed now. The Fire Giant is taking longer and longer. The damage is not coming through from the Leviathans, and that's going to buy time for the Gladiators to respawn, for Scary D to teleport right back into the fray. All that opportunity from the Leviathans now lost in those few moments of opportunity.
Yeah, I'm not even sure Scary D needed to teleport there. It's not as if there was anything really pressing his team. Could have walked up. Instead, will take the teleport in and rejoin his squad for the staring contest once more. This Fire Giant has proven to be durable. This might be one of the most living Fire Giants we've ever seen, the most damage taken without actually falling down. Go to Gladiators, maintaining their own defensive positioning on their side of the map. The Leviathans, though, starting to scatter to the wind a bit here. If the Gilded Gladiators are privy to this positioning, could start to move themselves forward. fineokay shows himself in mid. No eyes on left. It's adapting at Zapman, teaming up to take down the Primal Fury. The only way the Gilded Gladiators will learn about this is by the death notification. And there it is. The Atlantis Leviathans show their hands. What's the response now from the Gilded Gladiators? Is it immediate pull? Be the right call. Zapman and adapting still all the way on the left-hand side.
Inbound starts it. Does eat the knockoff damage by it, but it's just a bait for maybe fineokay. He's got hit with a lot of damage. Picked up by Scary D, shoved against the wall, but there's just not enough
Somebody
follow-up.
else.
fineokay's just a little too tanky. And now it's a big riptide by Ronngyu. He catches only one inside of the river, and it's only inbound. Goes up to the coffin to try and drag anything back, but Ronngyu might not be the best person to do so. Instead, it's inbound, falling for the sins of the team. And Leviathans, their one pick, maybe another. Beads gone from Snoopy. And the Leviathans, they continue to charge forward. And adapting goes to the back line, and Snoopy is gone. The boulder from Scary D is only going to be his coffin as Zapman puts them down with a double.
5 strong on the Leviathans and already knocking on the door of the base. This Phoenix will not last. Now with the Runic Bomb channeled. Right side bird taken. Kyrmi, no ultimate, halfway back to his cooldown. Stu's got the damage, but against 5?
Stuart and Kyrmi. Kyrmi half HP, and even less than that, he's already back in. Stu might not even get an opportunity to do so. Jumps up on the horse, fires out the damage, adapting is low, but Kyrmi is gone, and so is the Titan. The Leviathans take game 1.
The Gilded Gladiators pay for their sins there You gotta leave Alec Bonzo alone.
He's too
that
tanky,
late in the
man.
game. He's too tanky. And that was a perfectly executed fight on him. Pulls him back into the Fear No Evil. All the CCs connecting. Maybe we could have seen a little bit more from Snoopy there, but target selection, I think, a bit suspect from the Gilded Gladiators in the last couple of team fights. I think, was it 3 attempts on fineokay? One works out very early on, but just because it works once doesn't mean it'll work every single time. The Gilded Gladiators find that out the hard way.
It just feels like they're hesitant on wanting to actually deal the damage. They say, yeah, we caught one of the tanks, but man, this is one of the tanks 35, nearly 40 minutes into a game. They don't get the damage on the fineokay that they were hoping for, and he's able to dash his way back to safety. Ronngyu then decides, okay, well, you did everything to him. I'm just going to start barreling my way to the pack line. Catches out inbound and sets up for the Leviathans. Game number 1 to the Levi's in this best of 5. Can the Gladiators pull it back in game 2? We'll find out right after this break.
Con la canción soltera. Se ve que ella no está puesta para el amor. Yeah, yeah. Pero eso cambiará cuando ella me vea acá. Porque lo sepas. Porque ella me ha cupido a pedirle un favor. Yeah, 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 yeah. Esperando tu DM, pa' que invites una ronda más. Pa' que esos labios le besen ya. Y se repita lo de ayer. Esperando tu DM, pa' que la noche haga lo suyo. Que la fluidez le gane al orgullo. Y que sea lo que tú quieras ser. Repetiría 1.000 veces la noche que te vi. Sabía que era ese hombre que me hace reír y me hace creer que yo soy la mujer que se merece algo puro y no solo pa' comer. Y yo lo quiero, ya no va conmigo. Y aquí todas tus amigas te dicen nada. Yo voy a llorar un río como maná. Baby, a ti te adoro y lo sabes bien. Y me aseguro no te hieran otra vez. No me digas que no, es que el miedo lo jode. Lo que tuvo sentido por mi bebé, yo pa' ti estoy. No puedo vivir sin eso, sin tus caricias y tus besos. Qué rico tocar tu piel, pero más rico es el poder conectarse. Se siente mágico solo al abrazarte. Tú has prendido y se llama cuidarte. Yeah. Qué rico tocar tu piel, pero más rico es el poder conectarse. Sé que estoy loco, pero yo te amo. Yo ya no sé ni decirte.
Esperando tu DM, pa' que invites una ronda más, pa' que sola no me beses ya, y se repita lo de ayer. Esperando tu DM, pa' que la noche haga lo suyo, que la fluidez le gane al orgullo, y que sea lo que tú quieras ser.
Es que sé lo que tú quieres ser, mami, tírame al día.
Well, it's a 1-0 lead here for the Leviathans and Chel. There's some pretty convincing moments throughout that entire game. And you know what? If you need some convincing, I've got something that you should be convinced. It's about saving money, especially if you like VShojo and all the skins related to it. If you are interested in any of those things I just said, especially the saving money part, you should do this now. Because as you can see, from week 1 to week 5, the direct and buy all purchases are at the best value. And this week that we are currently in is actually the last week before the prices start to go back up. So if you want to get in on the VShojo event, get some of your favorite skins for your favorite VTubers that are out there, you want to make sure that you are doing that as soon as you can now, essentially, to make sure that you're getting the best deal for you and supporting your favorite VTubers out there. All the skins are fantastic. Of course, the chest is going to be there, but as you can see, at week 5, that price is going to go up. That's coming very soon. And then week 7, it goes up even beyond that. And then after week 9, it's going to be direct purchase only for these skins. So you want to make sure you get in on it now. You want to make sure you have those going for you. I love the skins, love the voice packs.
Oh, yeah.
I've been loving watching them stream as well. It's just been a fun time. And other things I've been loving was watching this game 1, Chel. Leviathans look really good in that one. Mifflin has a moment that actually makes me guffaw with a great scary D call.
The imposter among us.
The imposter among us. There are a lot of things I might have expected there. That was not on the list. It was great.
If you missed the call, pretty much Scary D pushed Ronngyu, driving strike, Hercules won, said, hey, here, team, I brought you a free kill. And Ronngyu said, thanks, bud, and just put up the rivers right after and got his team a triple kill. So that was the reason for the play call.
You might end up seeing it.
I think it's right here.
Just from a different perspective.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah, right there.
He got punched in, and then Adapting said thank you. Sheento said thank you, and they ended up getting 3 kills off it. So not the greatest, and I think we've all been in that situation when you're the front line and you're like, hey, I've got like a Sobek pluck, and you pluck like a Hunbats into your team, and then they just get ulted. Never like to see it, but in this case, I think, we were talking about a contested pick, and that was the Baba Yaga, something that Snoopy loved to go to, and in this case, the Leviathans took it away from the Gladiators, and ends up working out very well here for the Leviathans. I think that Zap, Sheento, Adapting, they all have the flashy score lines as you would imagine. When your front line's playing like this, that's kind of what you expect. I think fineokay did some great jobs, not only setting up for his team, but also baiting towards the end, thinking, hey, maybe we have a free kill on this King Arthur. Didn't quite work out that way, and so the Leviathans end up looking real good at the end of game 1.
5-0-10 for Sheento. There was one moment in those highlights you even saw where he is, should be dead. A stiff breeze knocks him over into the grave. Unfortunately for the Gladiators, they couldn't do anything about it. He's still standing afterward. Everybody looks incredibly good because of it. And they end up winning this one. Little bits of moments that fight back, right? Stuart goes 3-0-3, has a pretty good performance. There were some ults At moments, maybe the Gladiators had that looked out good for them, but nothing, Chelly, that could get them back on top, get them back where they needed to be. So a nice 1-0 lead for the Leviathans. Now the big question, and the hard question to answer, I would even say, what do you do about that? Is that one something you can change in picks and bans? I mean, maybe slightly, right? Letting Ronngyu have Yemoja is never a good idea, but
Correct.
it feels like there's a lot of, like, King Arthur's not getting picked up all the time. Heimdallr was a second pick in that game, and it's not something that's, like, getting hounded. We'll find out, I guess, in picks and bans for game number 2, but what kind of things do you change?
Well, at first glance, you know, it seemed like, number one, the Leviathan said, hey, we want to get this Baba Yaga. We want to take that away from Snoopy. Then plan 2 was let's grab everything except for junglers, right? That seemed to be the call. Both of these teams rely so heavily on Kyrmi and adapting to get off to a good start. And because they waited so long and had so many bans through, I mean, the Leviathans were able to pick up Bakasura towards the very tail end of that draft. And it was just, you know, the Gladiators like, hey, dude, you don't want to pick Susanoo anymore, right? That's not great. You don't want to pick this, so let's just go in for the Hun Bats. Hopefully you can get value out of that ultimate, which Kyrmi found some success. But I'm thinking prioritizing getting Kyrmi on something comfortable, whether that be the Serqet if it gets through, which usually doesn't, or the Bakasura of his own. That could be a priority here for the Gilded Gladiators. They would just have to not ban one of them in this slot, and they at least get one. But I really do doubt that we're going to see a first pick jungler just by how this is going, unless, of course, that Serqet does not get banned here.
It was something that the Leviathans were willing to ban first and foremost last time around. Maybe having the conversation right now, do you think you can handle it? Because they did the last time these two teams played.
No?
And they do think that they can handle it. But I guess in that vein of conversation, do you think Serqet is too telegraphed right now, especially after the nerfs? Like, is it too much to lock her in?
Wow. Apparently.
I guess so. Terra. First pick was banned out again by the Leviathans in game 1. Something Inbound looked pretty good on yesterday, and he's going to try to get a repeat performance on it.
Yep, and the Leviathans have the option to take that Serqet away. It's definitely something adapting could go to, but I do think that Kyrmi likes it a bit more. And I'm surprised that Terra was more highly prioritized. I know it's a great pick, and it's something Inbound looks great on. It's possible that he's just done with the mages. You know, again, Hell and Afro were something he could have went to, and he decided to go for Baron. More aggressive, more CC. Terra is the best of both worlds. She still has that sustain. She still has that aggression, can get involved, has the CC. I do think it's one of the better options to grab in that support role, but you are, once again, giving up that Serqet. So it seems like either A, trying to play through Stu is their plan, or B, Kyrmi didn't want to go to the Serqet and feels like he has an option the second that gets locked in. If he wants it, he has to grab it now, though, because the Leviathans have the option to just keep banning and say, hey, we saw you go 1-5 in game number 1 because you waited so long to grab that jungle pick. We're going to make you go even deeper into that God pool.
I'm excited now to see what the Gladiators are going to do. I feel like, in my mind, Trelly, I looked over towards adapting, and I'm like, you know, that guy can play Serqet.
Merlin.
But is he going to lock in a Serqet? You know, that kind of mentality is maybe what that comes with. And the answer is yes, right? He locks it in, like you said, alongside Hachi. So what adapting will do with this pick, kind of prove, A, if it's as good as some of his other picks, and B, kind of right the wrong. Is this something that you were just picking to take away from Kyrmi? Rom and Merlin. Rom, I had talked to you in the last picks and bans about how I honestly am surprised sometimes to not see him as highly prioritized. And here he is alongside, again, another staple in the mid lane. Hell gets locked in. And Trelly, a lot of the times, this has been going to the support role. And I think Ronngyu has played it a couple of times so far this year. But if there was anyone that's not Paul right now who I could see taking it mid, Sheento's on that list.
Sheento definitely is on that list. Ronngyu has played it more recently, but still, could be a flex grab just to see what they want to go towards. They already have CC, and that's usually my one concern with the Hell is do you have ease of engage? And I think Serqet provides that, so you don't have to rely on Ronngyu. You can let adapting take the wheel, or whatever fineokay wants to go to later on. But Kyrmi does take some bans here, and that's what I was expecting. The Fenrir, the Awilix, 2 picks that the Leviathans don't want to deal with. That does mean that the Bakasura is still available That's something he wants to go towards. And I do think it's got a decent matchup in a Serqet. You're not trying to find that 1v1, but if you do, she has a lot of movement abilities you can cripple out. And you farm just so fast, which is something that Kyrmi definitely likes to do. I want to see him off a pick like the Hunbats. Yeah, it's great. The ult's fantastic, but again, the early pressure is what I think you're looking towards here. You have to match adapting on Serqet, and he's on one of the best early junglers you can get.
Now, I do want to ask you, and you know what, I'll ask if it surprises you to hear this. The Leviathans, when playing Hell, and as mentioned, was for Ronngyu the 2 times they've played it, haven't won with it as Hell support, and that feels like it tracks with what we've been seeing about Hell and Afro support for pretty much every team, save for the Ravens and the Warriors right now.
Yeah, it does not surprise me. I'm not saying that should vote against Ronngyu on Hell.
It's only 2 games.
I'm sure he plays it fine. It's just I do think you nerf your team fight heavily when you pick the Hell. You are really hoping that you have CC elsewhere, and the Hell is just going to provide great clear in lane. You're gonna out pressure early. You're gonna have that cleanse, and you're gonna have tons of sustain. But you have the rest of the team has to pick up the slack after that, right? It doesn't matter how much healing you have if you can't return damage if you're not winning that fight. With the Horus locked in, that really doesn't answer our question just yet.
No, not quite.
Still could be fineokay taking the Horus solo, and the Hell going mid, or the Hell going mid and the Horus going support. There's a lot of different options, so I'm going to hold on to that. But finally we get to see what Kyrmi goes to. Again, I still think the Baka would be a nice look to try and match that early pressure that we know adapting can bring with the Serqet.
Something that got picked away from him last time. In this exact spot, actually, for the Leviathans. Also looking for a solo option. Probably playing the same jumbled game that we are, where you look at it and you go, well, that could be my matchup in the Horus. It could not be my matchup in the Horus. He could be over there against the Terra. You could see Hell. I mean, you know, it's a throwback to last year even. Nothing this meta. But Variety had a really nasty Hell last year. It looked really good. Definitely a window of opportunity. Odin gets locked in, though. And you had called for it. Hovered. And locked in. Bakasura. With the Odin as well, when you look at the amount of people that don't have leaps on the side of the Leviathans, it feels like you're going to be locking in quite a few people, and the Bakasura should be feasting.
Yep. Big circles, the Merlin, the Terra, and of course the Odin cage will provide, and then you got the damage to follow it up. So I am liking the Odin pick here at the end of the draft. Big team fight presence. Definitely slanted towards late game Rama, Merlin. Those are 2 picks that don't want to fight if they can help it. They can sit back and get 2-3 items online before they even see any sort of scrapping. That would be ideal. But again, I can't stress it enough. Adapting is going to find pressure early. He will look to try and get active with the Serqet. Whether that succeeds or not is up to Kyrmi or up to, ward coverage, I suppose. But you just got to make sure you stay vigilant. The Cerberus is going to be locked in. So I'm thinking mid-Hell, Horus over to support, and the Cerberus in solo. But I suppose it still could be flip-flopped because we've seen a bit of Horus solo as well. It's just, I think the Cerb really does get value over in that solo lane. Getting the anti-heal, Tainted Steel starter helps out a ton. You get that Tainted Amulet and just start stealing this Terra heal. That's the kind of play that I would expect to see. fineokay came into the interview saying he might play Sobek, and Cerberus is similar enough of a playstyle.
It's the closest you could get to Sobek right now without everybody questioning your intent, right?
Well, Kuzenbo's pretty close, like species-wise.
Well, like species-wise, but like if you're locking in Kuzenbo, I'm still thinking, what are you doing? Like, what is the goal here? The day we see, okay, no, I don't even want to think about. And you know what? That's exactly what the chat should be spamming if he got locked in solo lane. There's no way you're doing that, and it's not a troll. Hell goes mid though. So really, I mentioned this to you when we were casting earlier. Like, Hell does a deceptive amount of early game damage in my mind.
Yep.
Her mana disappears in an instant, but the damage is still there. But is that enough, the damage that you're getting from a Hell, but specifically from a Serqet now and a Hachi? Do you have the right amount of carries for the Leviathans? Is there somebody who can be the one? I mean, is adapting on the Serqet gonna be the one who can go like 6-0 while the rest are facilitating?
They definitely do have plenty of kill potential. I think that the Hell Serqet level 2 is disgusting as is. Just locked down into how much follow-up Hell can bring is pretty hard to deal with. Couple that with the fact that Horus is going to be getting you a lot of pressure. You have that beads burn for the Stygian Torment later on. I think the Leviathans have crafted a pretty nasty composition, assuming they play their team fights well. Odin cages have been a problem in the past. You know, you also might want to curse Ankh for that Terra ultimate. There are some big things the Gladiators have drafted for themselves that you're going to have to deal with. You can't just play your own version of SMITE. You do have to adhere a little bit to what the Gladiators have drafted. And of course, you know, Merlin, Rama, and Baka all getting towards late game could be nasty if you're getting that from an even standpoint. So I think pressure should be on the side of Leviathans, and yeah, I think they've got the comp to back it up.
You had mentioned, though, some of the team fight potential, especially getting towards that late game, like having the Odin cage that drop in, having Terra that drops in. What stage of the game are the Gladiators finding their strengths, and how do they get there?
If I had my option, right, if I spawn in the game as Merlin or Rama, I'm like, hey, give me 3 items before I even look at aggression. Like,
we're not fighting.
Yeah, I'm going to take my purple, I'm going to drag it under tower, I'm going to get my red buff, and let's not do anything if we can help it.
Well, we'll see if the Leviathans give them that option as we jump into game number 2. Leviathans up 1-0. Let's see what happens right here.
We'll see if the Gladiators can put themselves at least in a better position going into game number 3 with a win here potentially for game 2. Or are Leviathans going to push themselves to match point with a win in this one? It's J-Mac, Mifflin, and Doug here for game 2 between the Gladiators and the Leviathans, the best of 5 on day 2 of the playoffs. And the fans seem to think this one might be going a little bit towards the Leviathans. 60-40 on the dot between these two teams out here. Leviathans draft themselves a pretty strong composition, though, Mifflin. You got a lot of sustain with Sheento, Ronngyu. You have a lot of initiation between Ronngyu and fineokay, even adapting, able to burn some of those beads for one of his frontliners to get through there. It feels like the Gladiators have just a lot of maybe anti-initiation more than anything. Kind of, you get in my face, I'm going to push back, throw some CC to lock you away.
Yeah, Terra, one of the best counter-initiation gods in the game. Earthen Fury making everybody a tank and giving a burst of healing means that when the Leviathans do decide to all in, could be a bit difficult there. Otherwise, Scary D probably going to be primary initiator for this team, lock down Hell, and then you've got a clear target, right? Phantom Shell going to be on the mind of the Leviathans likely pretty early on. Surprised even that they haven't elected to pick up a Shell in first slot. Instead, horrific emblem for Ronngyu, just going to trust the positioning of Sheento for the first 12 levels. Scary D will be largely constricted to the soul lane. It's not like an Odin support or an Odin jungle that could start putting pressure on the Hell immediately. So it could be a calculated decision here from the Leviathans in that it's unlikely that Sheento and Scary D will be interacting with each other for the first 10 or so minutes of the game. Otherwise, I think you're right to say that the Gilded Gladiators have got a largely standard composition. That just looks like a SMITE draft. You could get it anywhere. Standard mage out of mid, an assassin out of jungle, good front line to get things started, and a hunter. Whereas the Leviathans, a little bit more difficult in execution, I think. Especially considering it's a non-artillery mage, a non-standard mage out of mid. That Hell going to have to do a good deal throughout that mid to late game. Hell is almost like an Erlong Shen Osiris in that it's feast or famine. You're either dominating with Hell out of mid or you're getting dominated, it seems like. Lots of damage output, as Gormizer brings up against Snoopy on this Merlin. Might be able to catch him slipping, at least pre-5.
We do see adapting. Once more putting pressure to the right side of the map. In the previous game, this is where adapting put a lot of his focus in the early game, was trying to keep Scary D down, try and get these picks onto the Hercules prior. Now maybe try and do the same thing, put this Odin behind, maybe make his rotations a little bit less impactful. I believe it's about level 13 or 14, maybe just a little bit longer before we saw Scary D's first rotation out, and it was for a Gold Fury, at least for his squad, and that ended up being the one fight that went south for the Gilded Gladiators, and then their next fight having a nice little turnaround for themselves. Maybe that's why we see Ronngyu not go for the Phantom Show right away, is maybe knowing how long it might take Scary D to get out of lane before he'd need it.
Yeah, I think so. Worth noting that in the previous match, the Gilded Gladiators were able to get aggressive all the way across the map. Just about every single objective was either started by them or stolen by them. Could be that they try and reprise that playstyle. Skirmish on the left-hand side. Inbound, off the mark with a stun, but no more mobility. Stuart's got some opportunity to sink in some damage himself. I'm keeping my eyes on the junglers, J-Mac. Bakasura, Serqet, both playmaking style picks. Can get things rolling very early on. I'd argue Serqet probably has a bit of an easier time. Bakasura, especially pre-5, just all about those auto attacks. Serqet can lock down and do the damage on her own. We'll see where Adapting decides to put that pressure. Easiest target's got to be Stu, right? So often Rom's answer is, I'll just head to the air. Doesn't matter if you're taking true damage.
Inbound does have the second dash in time. Will pop the Horn Sharp for the extra cooldowns, but they're not going to come in time. And it's Zapman with the first blood off the over-aggression from Inbound. And this is a play he's been making game in and game out. And this time he gets punished for it.
Was that 100 damage, 99 damage per auto attack?
I would not doubt
From
it.
Zapman there? Yeah, I mean, barrel stuff that first ability, you get a whole lot. Zapman, though, caught by Kyrmi. That should be an easy return kill. Stu up to the sky as well. Time spent killing Inbound. It's time spent not farming. Stu solos out his Backhand, purple buff, and wave. Takes over to level 5, so advantage to him in experience. But you can see it inversed in support. 5 to the 3 of Inbound between Ronngyu and the Terra of the Gilded Gladiators. Could be now that Ronngyu tries to vacate the lane, allow Zapman to catch it back up a bit, maybe rotate towards mid.
Adapting a bit late on the attempt for the taunt there. So doesn't find anything up against Scary D, who's able to leap away. Ronngyu got caught at least in the wall there for a moment by Inbound, but as long as that Protector Surge is online and the CC isn't too heavy, almost always some form of scapegoat there, at least for Ronngyu to get back out, as long as he's got an ally nearby, or a minion, if need be. But Sheento on the Hell, unfazed by anything going on across the map, will continue to sit here and power farm in the mid lane while Zapman is doing Zapman things. He'll be fine, but I was worried for a moment there if he maybe checked out.
Yeah, I honestly
thought he disconnected for a moment. I honestly thought, because he was just standing there.
Oh, he was baiting.
But it's a bait for Inbound instead. Catches the first dash from Inbound, but the second one's still there. Now it's Stu showing up, adapting, not enough damage. Inbound turns it back around. Kyrmi with the kill. And in the sky is Stu. Needs both of the next snipes to get the kill on Zap, and won't find the third one through. Zapman lives on, and instead it's a kill for the Gladiators.
You can't bait the baiter, I suppose. Zapman, AFK on Bastion, distracts Inbound, who in turn entices a rotation from adapting, but it was all so that Kyrmi could rotate through and get active. I'm not so certain that all those layers of entropy were taken into account by either of these teams, with all honesty. But at the end of the day, it's the Gilded Gladiators. Come out slightly ahead on that exchange. I'm getting wild deja vu here.
I don't know what's happening, man.
Yeah, Ronngyu takes a lot of damage. It's all good. We'll return back to neutral shortly. Bakasura, though, a god that with a lead generally holds on to it. Serqet, perhaps the second fastest jungle clear of any of the assassins. Bakasura, the fastest. Should be able to hold on to it. I wonder where he goes, though. Where does Kyrmi put his pressure? Is it more rotations over towards duo lane? Be able to get through Zapman's ultimate first? I could see that being the case. Otherwise, slowing down Sheento needs to become a priority. Sheento plays a different game from everybody else. He's not interested in the comings and goings of the duo or the solo lane. He's simply interested in his experience bar and how quickly he can fill it up. Will spend all of his time farming given the opportunity, and so far with 0 rotations towards him, plenty of opportunity.
You know, the audience can't see it, but if I were to show a load in here for Sheento, it doesn't matter. Scary D might go down here. Does have the shield to eat up most of the ultimate, but on landing does get hit by a spit from fineokay, and that notches the second one on the board now for Leviathans. And finally, after a full game of adapting, trying to find that pick on a Scary D, trying to get those kills back in game 1, comes up this time for adapting and fineokay, able to get that pick.
Yeah, difference is Scary D has gone for a very greedy build. We saw it a little bit earlier. Odin does a lot of damage with Transcendence in first slot. Also takes a lot of damage, though. No defense just yet. Starting to work on his first defense item in second. Means that is a play we could see continued by adapting. Scary D, very susceptible. It's still only slowly starting to stack up. Only 5 on that Transcendence. fineokay, adapting. 1 magical, 1 physical. It's going to be a while till Scary D could deal with both of them.
Go back to what I was going to say to even like double down with the point that you were making is Sheento loads into the game with only the person immediately opposite of him ever in his sights. He's not looking at any of the other 8 names in the lobby. He is there saying, okay, Snoopy is here, minions are here. I'm focusing on Snoopy as long as I can. at least until he hits that level 20 and starts the actual
nearly.
fights. But now Zapman forces the ultimate early in that engagement, wants to hold on to the beads, and will do so. Fast escape out with the ult, and Zapman will be just fine.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons Hachiman is just so safe in that lane. Avoids the stun and avoids any bit of follow-up damage as well. Inbound, you've been here before. This time, though, it's got some backups, too, here with them. Kyrmi joining quickly. But it's a full rotation from the Leviathans. Here's the chase.
Sheento adapting alongside. Adapting didn't come in with the Horus ult, but instead it'll still be hand-delivered an ultimate by Inbound. He will go down. Kyrmi half HP forced out, and it's a full 5-stack by Leviathans. On the left
Fury?
side of the map, Scary D, nowhere to be seen, no teleport for him to jump back in this. It'll just be a Gold Fury and a pick for Leviathans.
Man, that is such a clean play from the Leviathans. You got to think it's well thought out, too. You get the kill on a Scary D. He's forced to teleport into lane. fineokay holds on to his, gets involved over towards left. You know, best case scenario for the Gilded Gladiators is 4v5. Find a pick, it's a 3v5, and you don't want to do that to a team that's got healing. So the Leviathans, an easy objective for themselves. And look at the vision coverage on the left-hand side. It is not often you see a map covered with this many wards. Gilded Gladiators got a lot in the Leviathan side of the map, and the Leviathans have matched it in kind. Nothing either team could do without the other knowing. But in a perfect world and balanced knowledge, it's the Leviathans who come out ahead off of an overextension from Inbound towards that purple buff.
You know, Leviathans really wanted to make that aggressive play over there. I mean, ever since all the new relic shards have come to the game, vision hasn't been the #1 go-to for everybody to get those free wards out there. That is just money in pocket from the Leviathans used to get all that vision on the left side and make that gank possible, and even make that rotation possible for fineokay. Jump over into the fray and now get a Gold Fury for Leviathans to start up their lead. About a 1.4, 1.5 thousand gold lead up for the team. Dead even in experience, at least for the time being, but Leviathans aren't going to settle with just one kill, maybe a second one if they can. fineokay rotates through. It's a double stun from Inbound. May dissuade the Leviathans from walking further forward, but it's Scary D up here by himself.
Squishy.
Crash out at least for Ronngyu and team, but maybe just a bait. Scary D, he is not tanky for this fight.
No, he's going to have to teleport back in if he wants to stay healthy. Whereas the Leviathans have essentially got a roving fountain named Sheento on this hell, as well as Ronngyu with some of his supplementary healing. Leviathans maintaining presence on the right-hand side. A potential blue buff invade leaves adapting at low HP. fineokay gets the buff and then the up down.
Jumps right in place, but Sheento and Ronngyu are here for the bailout. Plenty of sustain to the Cerberus. You
Look at
wouldn't
his
believe that he just took a lot of damage in that fight. Will get stunned out and nearly pulled back by Snoopy. Jump in by Kyrmi, and Scary D credit for the damage to take down that final kill. And that's the Gladiators tying up the kills, 3-3. And Pyromancer just now spawning means they can march their way right to it.
Can't believe it was an up down there from fineokay. Maybe miscommunication between him and Sheento. Sheento takes the roundabout route. Pyromancer pulled, burning slowly.
Kyrmi gonna go down. Damage from adapting. The burst is crazy, but adapting might just go
They're
down
so
too.
low.
It's a double jump in. Inbound. 1 HP gets knocked away by Sheento. And Ronngyu doing his best to keep himself and his teammate alive. Dashes over, and now fineokay has rejoined the fray with his teleport. Scary D wants to close out his kill and blocks off the dash for a double for himself, but he's left Snoopy by himself to deal with Sheento and fineokay, and that is not a position you want to leave Snoopy in as Sheento picks up the kill.
Yeah, Sheento notches his second of the game. 4 out of 6 affected kills. And a good deal of survivability starting to stack up as well. Spear of Desolation right into Lotus. Immediately a Breastplate of Valor likely after that to finish up his CDR. That is a very survivable Hell who has gone uncontested and has now been handed a few of kills, as that is just a tough start for the Gilded Gladiators. Now Kyrmi likely unwilling to start looking towards the mid lane, and I can't blame him. Sheento's already starting to get a bit out of control. But at the end of the day, where does that leave us? Gold about exactly where it was before all of that skirmishing had begun. Nearly 2,000, but experience dead even. The Gilded Gladiators keeping it interesting.
Tier 1 tower.
How
Gonna
fast?
go down.
So
Runic
fast.
Bomb. Runic Bomb helps out there. That's what we see quite often, at least on first case uses. As the Leviathans, who started that fight to try and go for a Runic Bomb, then forced away from that fight because the Gladiators step forward, and then the Gladiators say, okay, well, we'll go for a Pyromancer, and the Leviathan answer back say, no, you're not going for one. We're going to keep a fight interesting. And then at the end of the day, it is the Leviathans who do get that Pyro, can take down a Tier 1 tower. So really help Sheento continue to boost up his farm game as well. Already level 14 for Leviathan's highest level in the lobby, even ahead of his solo and his carry. He's been so much free farm this game. Gilded Gladiators, though, not down just yet, but certainly taking quite a hefty bit of gold. Starting up the Oni Fury. Maybe a bit questionable by the Gladiators, right in the face of Leviathans, and Scary D is in no man's land by himself. Kyrmi jumps over the wall quickly, able to get himself back out. Inbound, taunted back in, hit by the ultimate. Rama adapting, and an easy pick back, but the whole team's been taxied in. A 5-man dive bomb in by the Leviathans. Nets a double for Sheento.
Dude, I'm feeling like that Mickey Mouse meme. Like, oh, what happened? What happened? Scary D's alone in the back line? He just gets immediately decimated. Inbound and the rest of the boys pulling the Gold Fury with the Leviathan, saying, hey, you don't have the burn to do this. We're going to go ahead and take our time, destroying your allies while you soften up the objective for us. Just strange decision-making. I wonder what that is. The Gilded Gladiators may be pressured by the desynced neutral objectives, feel like they have to do the Gold Fury there. And if the Leviathans take it, maybe you've given up too much, but I've got no words for the decision-making process there. That is Scary D just trying to zone for his team, and if that's the case, you got to think there should have been more burn on the objective. J-Mac, I don't know, but I'll tell you what happened. Leviathans just roll over the Gilded Gladiators in that fight. 0 fight back, and then Ronngyu allowed to have a picturesque ultimate to close things out.
Stu has got some backup. Kyrmi and Inbound. So he'll be able to at least guarantee the shield buff for himself. While Leviathans just go back to focusing on their farm game. Oni minions pushing up on the left side will be dealt with. Pushing in mid as well. Shouldn't cause any problems, at least on this iteration of Oni Fury. Usually it's not until we start getting Fire Giants, Phoenixes. It's really when that Fury becomes a threat. Scary D, up, down in place. Confused me for a moment, but no fears. There's nobody around to punish him for a play like that.
Yeah, not a whole lot you're going to be rotating over towards Soul Lane at this point for, barring a Pyromancer, which has respawned. And Ronngyu already on the scene. It'll be slow burn. Your mid laner's not dealing the most damage with this build, and Zapman's on the opposite side. But if he's able to distract too, it won't matter how long it takes. Path of least resistance for the Gilded Gladiators. They have to know this is happening. And they do, so what's the answer? Dive on left. Zapman playing safe. Will give up his Tier 1 tower, and that's a value trade for the Leviathans as they continue, the Gilded Gladiators that is, to try and put some pressure into Zap.
We'll throw out the ult, but I think the shot actually might have got blocked by the Monolith. Fineokay. He's teleported over with the rest of the squad immediately behind him. Inbound doesn't get picked up by that ultimate, so once again a taxi service right to the back line. Stu used the beads and the ult, gets up into the sky just in time. Wants to go for the sides on the damage, but can't do so. Zapman clotheslines Kyrmi on landing, and Scary D with the cage to bail out Stu. Sheento just not enough damage, but it might be Scary D traded out, able to jump back to the Tier 1 tower. And Kyrmi, the only casualty so far.
A tough situation for the Gilded Gladiators because the Leviathans are not done. They're healing and strong. They'll knock down the Tier 1 tower. Runic Bomb used there, surprisingly. I thought maybe they'd keep up their siege into that Tier 2. Instead, a reset. And it's the Leviathans on chase down that turn around aggression from the Gilded Gladiators. Kyrmi, unfortunately, falls prey to some incredibly long-range auto attacks from Zapman. Fortunately for the Gilded Gladiators, Stu does somehow miraculously survive all that damage. I believe it was a Chel from Inbound to immune the last bit of burst from Sheento as he retreats into his Tier 1 that used to be there. It's the Leviathans all the way down. This gold lead starting to get out of control as Zapman would like to remind the young buck Stu what's going on. Takes a little bit of damage, but not enough to actually secure the kill.
Yeah, about half health on Stu. That'll force him back to maybe resustain on the speed buff. Gold Fury still about 30 or so seconds till that one can come back up. Maybe Zapman trying to get a little bit of setup on that side to see if they can get ready for the next Gold Fury, but maybe a bit early on Sugar this time through. But could also just be, as you said, that reminder to show Stu a reason why Zapman's been in the league for so long.
Well, like 30 years now, right?
Just about.
Somewhere
around there. Close enough. at this point through.
Like literally a third of that. Still a decade.
God, can you imagine saying that for a third of your life? You've been slamming professional for this one. Ronngyu gonna find a stun on a 1. Does take the beads away from Snoopy. Adapted goes in immediately, gets the Aegis away from him now. And the heals from Sheento is just keeping this team healthy the entire way through. Ronngyu, credit for the kill. Leviathans, beeline to the Fury.
Leviathans, like clockwork, pick. Oh, objectives respawn. Let's go ahead and head over there. Gold Fury this time. Gilded Gladiators, right to not show up. I don't think you're taking this fight. Best case scenario, maybe they can sneak a Fire Giant, but look at the wars from the Leviathans. Nothing's happening on the right-hand side without them knowing about it. And nothing's happening on the right-hand side regardless. Adapting, confidently able to stand between anybody on the Gilded Gladiators and the Gold Fury. And so, another free objective to the Chaos side. There's going to have to be a line drawn in the sand eventually, J-Mac, because experience still matters. Gold still matters. We're very early in this game, and both are starting to fall into that danger zone, that 5,000-6,000 mark, where team fights just start to feel so heavily favored to one side or the other. Some significant power spikes on the way for the Gilded Gladiators. Keep my eyes on that book for Snoopy. Maybe a Reaver there. Penetration starting to stack up for Kyrmi, who's got the serrated edge finished. And then the Odysseus bow for Stu.
Kyrmi trying to take a 3v1, but it's because he's got 3 right behind him. Adapting goes for the ultimate, gets the beads away from Kyrmi. Adapting able to jump away. Scary D finds 3 inside the cage, but Ronngyu gonna taxi his team right back out. Now it's a 5-stack. Oh, the Gladiators trying to chase down 4 Leviathans. Ronngyu is low. Damage from Snoopy is good, but not good enough. Sustain is just too much, and even the snipes are not going to be enough damage. Scary locked up under the tower, jumps away, has just enough health, but Sheento smacks away the last couple hundred he had.
Meanwhile, Zapman, who was not present for the fight, has made himself known. Rotates in, nearly stops that back from Kyrmi, but is unable. Instead, it's a rotation forward. And what was that clockwork play? Pick into objective? Pyromancer this time for the Leviathans, off of a phenomenal disengage. But are they done? Fire Giant, maybe.
Starting up. Now 3 Furies, 3 Pyros, and maybe 1 Fire Giant.
They got it.
For the last Leviathans. Only hope that they have is if Inbound can find a miracle steal up against the team. There is a Runic Bomb in pocket in case Ronngyu has that fear, but
I think it's worth trying.
Inbound not going to go in for it. So it will be a Fire Giant to the Leviathans. Nobody falling in that last team fight. In a 4v5, able to sustain through all of it. The 1 Divine Ruin, and even that Cursed Onk, still not enough to slam through the healing of the Leviathans.
I think Bobby should have died for it there. Like, at least attempt it. At some point, you got to realize, I'm 0-4. I'm level 13. My respawn timer is 25 seconds, maybe. I'm not stopping a push on my own. It would have been worth it for the attempt. Imagine the miracle situation where he does actually get the objective. That's completely removed. Miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And Inbound does not elect to take his shot this time. So the Leviathans, Fire Giant on 5. Plenty of structures still on the map to collect. 3 tier 2s, a team composition that is pretty decent on Siege. You've got AoE initiation and plenty of sustain to play with, and potentially a pick if Adapting has got his way. And what's the defense like for the Gilded Gladiators? Snoopy, of course, going to be great on it. Merlin, one of the strongest gods in the game on base defense. But Kyrmi, auto-attack assassins in general, really do struggle when the game simplifies these tightened up spaces. Good luck auto-attacking anybody with all the AoE damage flying around your head.
Leviathans will put up small defense at their tier 2. Wouldn't have to push the Leviathans away, but it's a 1-3-1 split by the Leviathans. A bit of an awkward one from them, and now it could be a chance for the Gladiators to strike back. fineokay and Ronngyu are by themselves. fineokay's got the lead to get away. Rongyu's got the ultimate to dive out as well, and he'll go back to Sheento instead, sitting inside the jungle. Adapting, bats away at the tier 2 on right. fineokay under threat in the mid. The fire is doing a lot of damage, but it's just not enough. Scary D's leap will be enough damage, and Sheento able to break himself right through the cage, but Ronngyu will fall down. Sheento burned away, healing not enough. Snipes have got to be on point, or one shot from Stu does it. Double kill for the Hunter, but Zapman and Adapting trade with 2 tier 2s.
What happened? Why are the Leviathans so confident that they're willing to 3v5? Where did that come from? Adapting and Zapman are your damage dealers. Adapting's the guy who chooses who dies. He's affected 9 of your 12 kills. His ultimate is the go button, and you decided to play without it. Zapman is the one that actually deals with the structures. You play without him, and now he's alone in mid and surrounded.
What?
Could potentially make his way out, but why is he here?
Snoopy, he'll flicker in. Get some damage to Zapman. Adapting, though, may have just gotten caught on the D-transform through. Snoopy
What is
picks
going
up Zapman.
on?
Adapting will go down to Snoopy. It's a double for the Gilded Gladiators. But silver lining, 2 tier 2s by Leviathans. Only an Oni Fury up for the Gladiators to take afterwards.
Yeah, and the only Fury on the opposite side of the map, I guess, won't be the target for the Gilded Gladiators. Instead, a tier 1 on right, potentially a bit more. Yeah, arrogance, maybe, hubris from the Leviathans and their ability to stop the Gilded Gladiators on their own. Maybe the Leviathans were just assuming the Gladiators were trying to defend. Now it's Kyrmi. He's got 2 staring him down.
Fineokay throws out the ultimate, gets nobody with it. Sheento can't sustain him up. Ronngyu dashes back out. And again, they're
I'm gonna
taking
freak out.
3v5 fights, and they're losing
I'm gonna throw
3v5
up.
fights. It's another double for Stu. 4-0-4 now for the Hunter off of 2 team fights. And he's made a massive impact swing. Tier 1, Tier 2, 2 kills, and now only 20 seconds till fires back up.
It's a team fight composition, J-Mac. You're a healing, sustained draft. Play together as 5 maybe 1 time.
Or draw 25.
Or draw 25. Man, what is going on here? The Leviathans, for the first 20 minutes, perfect. Find your pick, go to objective. If you get another pick, go to another objective. And they execute on it every single time. Oh, we took some damage. Let's resustain. And then all of a sudden, they've done all the hard work. They've done it all. They've established their lead. They knocked down the fire giant. They grabbed the biggest neutral objective. And all the wind is lost in their sails. Their bodies go lax, and they say, well, day's work's done, and are immediately smacked down by the Gilded Gladiators. And then it is a continuous lapse in judgment to do it again. Imagine fumbling and then saying, you know what, it must have been execution. We could surely 2v5.
Leviathans are at 75 cards in hand plus at this point from the number draw 25.
You think they've looked at the top of their screen and realized they're not winning anymore? Do you think that's happened?
Yeah, it's only 2,000 between them. It was sitting 4, nearly 5,000 at one point. Adapting tries to 1v1 Kyrmi, realizes now he can't do that, so he's got to get bailed out, but can't. Kyrmi blinks in and finds another pick, and now I can see the communication in Kyrmi just on those player cams. He's calling for the team, says, we got Adapting, we got 1, we've got a lead, let's do something with it.
Time to start looking towards that fire giant. Burn, certainly there for the Gilded Gladiators. Double auto attackers plus a Merlin. Means that you could deal with it pretty quickly. Already down to 50%, but Inbound trying to zone.
Got 3.
Takes a lot of damage.
Skier's got 3 in the back line. And
there it
Fire
is.
Giant to the Gilded Gladiators. Inbound, even though he fell low, dive in once again by the Leviathans. 3 versus what would be 4, though Skier's taking a lot of damage.
Yep.
Will jump away. Inbound. Not so fortunate, will be taken down by Zap, but that's 1 Inbound who probably should have died for the fire at the beginning. It'll be a delayed death on the support.
Yeah, I think just fine. Inbound is cooking up some sort of storm there in the player cams. My man is communicating at 1,000 miles a minute, but from the grayscale, we'll have some time to do so. Regardless, it is a massive, massive swing for the Gilded Gladiators. Fire Giant on 4, and really it's just 1 and Oni Fury for the Leviathans. So gold, slightly maintained, experience completely flipped. Fire Giant on 4 means that the tier 2 tower, the sole remaining tier 2 tower for the Leviathans, would be just enough for the Gilded Gladiators to tip things in their favor. Merlin, very good on siege. Stu should be able to poke out priority targets before the fight even starts. If you sink 3 shots in a Zapman, you better believe he's not sticking around for the engagement afterward, even with all the sustain on the Leviathans. Would take a little while. A couple of ability rotations before he's at fighting strength. So we'll see how this siege starts to play out. Inbound's a bit far, and I've seen a few times this game that teams are willing to fight without their 5-man numbers. I'd like to see Inbound join up with the team shortly. But with fineokay showing himself on the right, you got a little bit of time to group up.
Yeah, clearing out what appears to be the only minion wave that the Leviathans did get, but the Gladiators will take a tier 2 tower, and they won't try and push in 4v4 or 4v5 with fineokay was able to join the fray fast enough. Instead, we'll now rejoin Inbound over to the mid lane. All towers wiped off the map for the Gladiators to need to deal with. Instead, it would just be Phoenixes if they were to continue their siege, but it seems like with only about a minute left on their Fire Giant play, the Gladiators not going to push up towards one of these birds. So now the fight goes back around to the right side of the map, around the objectives. Pyro back up in 30 seconds, and Fire 2 minutes immediately after that.
Yeah, we're back to a dead even game. The Leviathans, if they group up, still in an even state still, should feel confident in their ability to team fight. That's what this composition's been built for. They want to poke in some damage, have Adapting be the solo agent. If he takes some damage himself, can fall back, rejoin the team, and restock on HP with the help of Ronngyu and Sheento. fineokay going to be primary initiator, and Zapman has got a whole lot of damage stacked up with a true 6-slotted build here. The Gilded Gladiators, though, from an even state, probably one of the best team fights they could have hoped for. Now, especially considering the pacing of the first 22 minutes of this game. The last 6 minutes have been serving the Gilded Gladiators very well. We're ways off the Fire Giants respawn, about a minute. Differences being both teams now with the Runic Bomb, only one tower still standing, and that's on the Gilded Gladiators side of the map. Map state not exactly favoring one side or the other. Minion waves pushed up slightly to the Leviathans, but similarly on the right-hand side, Leviathans have done a good job pushing there. J-Mac, we are looking at a true bona fide execution difference here. That's what's going to win the day on this next team fight. Who's playing their composition better? Because as far as itemization is concerned, I'm not so certain there's a whole lot of difference here.
I mean, before all of this had happened, it was 3 Furies, 3 Pyros, and a Fire Giant, all for Leviathans to build up their lead. And in 2 Pyros and 1 Fire Giant, the Gladiators have now taken that lead back away from the Leviathans, have tied up 13 on the kills for both teams. Still haven't found a Fury just yet for the Gladiators. Leviathans took away their one opportunity, but now could be fishing for a fight up against the Leviathans. Scary D by himself up against the 2 tanks. Will not elect, or maybe I should say won't even get an opportunity to use that cage, that CC chain from Ronngyu and fineokay, just enough to keep him locked down. The Fire Giant now back on the map, and the Gladiators grouped up right around the pit.
They'll burn it quickly, and they've got the zone with cage. Phantom Shell being forced to use aggressively to close gap would be a poor usage for the Leviathans in the eyes of the Gilded Gladiators.
Well, you lost this one. You lost this last time Adapting.
But he's got Zap this time.
And that was a 1v1. Oh, Adapting needs one shot from the auto after, and he thinks twice about the fight there. But now it's Scary D on the run, Adapting without an ult, Zap without an ult. That's 2 big ultimates down in trade for Kyrmi and his beads, but it cost Adapting his ult and both of his relics to do so.
Yeah, that is not a phenomenal trade there for the Leviathans. And Adapting, with this kind of build, still has a good deal of damage output, that crit, enough to threaten the squishier targets of the Gilded Gladiators, but Serqet without ultimate is no threat to a tank. Fire Giant pull nonetheless. Leviathans, this is a lot of confidence.
Collapsing onto Inbound, but big damage from Snoopy to answer right back through. The cage is there from Scary D. The Phantom Shell not used this time out. Now the Fire Giant picked back up by the Gladiators. They're forcing the Leviathans to jump in, and Kyrmi has the wraparound to go in. Gets the ult just off of cooldown. fineokay locks 2 down in place, but Zapman, the first one to go, pulled back in is Sheento, and Stu picks up yet another double. That's his 3rd one of the game, and Snoopy's not going to let this one go for free. He pulls fineokay back, but it's the Gladiators who can march right back to fire.
Man, Kyrmi got back to that fight so quickly, I thought he teleported. J-Mac legitimately. No, Bakasura just that mobile, and the Leviathans try their best to regroup and heal, but the Gilded Gladiators catch them as they stack up as 5. And when you're stacked as 5 against the Merlin, plenty of damage to be had. Stu's Odysseus bow runs wild in the back line as well. Now it's up to fineokay, Adapting, and Ronngyu to defend for the next 20 seconds against the 5-man strength of the Gilded Gladiators. Kyrmi, half HP, needs to play carefully, but watch his ultimate. It's going to be back up shortly.
In just a moment, Adapting for the wraparound. His ult is available for the fight, but right side burn removed. Adapting with the flank, finds a taunt only on a Scary D, dashes through, and Kyrmi now in danger, has to jump out of the cage that his teammate provides to him. One more shot on the Phoenix would do it, and Snoopy and Inbound get it done. A quick flicker out by Snoopy, but fineokay and Zap will chase through along with Ronngyu. The cavalry has arrived for the Leviathan. Scary D is out, but Kyrmi goes back in, loses the boxing match against Zapman. That's a double for Zap, maybe a little bit more, as Sheento takes down Stu and gets a massive shutdown swing. It's now the Leviathans who have turned this game right back around once again. Inbound taunted in, and dropped down. The Leviathans win a team fight under the mid-Phoenix.
J-Mac, hopefully we get a replay of that, because that Phoenix should have died so much faster. Snoopy has to sink the last 3 auto attacks himself. Stu had fully disengaged at full HP and full mana. I was watching that Phoenix, I'm thinking to myself, why has it not died? Nobody's blocking it, nobody's looking at Stu. He was too busy protecting himself to play for the team.
Wait, Scary D blinked to the back line. He's going to have to back just to get to the Titan. Will channel his own teleport
10 seconds.
to another Phoenix. It's the right-hand side, but he's got to bail for 5-4 for Snoopy. He jumps in. He'll lock the cage under 4, but that's not going to be enough to stop the damage to the Titan. The Leviathans, in one fell swoop, they drop all 75 cards on the table and call Uno.
Man, I'm going to have to go to the in-office clinic after this, because I have got a serious case of whiplash from this game. My neck has been turned one way and the other too many times. A back-and-forth battle, a seesaw of a game here. Both of these teams just could not figure out how they wanted to lock it down until the very end. And a clean team fight for the Leviathans. That late in the game, that's all it takes.
I mean, Leviathans could have just done that from the beginning. They
Yeah,
were
when
doing
they were
that.
ahead, yeah.
They were doing that
With
from the beginning.
Fire
The first 20, 24
Like 8K
minutes
up,
of the
yeah,
game,
Yeah.
it was objective pick, or I should say pick to objective, pick to objective. And then of them 3 Furies, 3 Pyros, and a Fire, and then they just throw it all away for a brief moment in a random 1-3-1 split when they could have just been doing that.
J-Mac, there can be no true despair without hope. And the Leviathans infuse hope into the Gladiators so that they could crush them. That is the best analysis that I can offer you and the fans at home, because it's the only thing that makes sense to me.
I feel like you just dang and romped me with that one. Got to bring the only way to bring true despair is to give them that hope. But the Leviathans have put a lot more despair now into the Gladiators, because it's a 2-0 lead for Leviathans. 1 game away from closing out. Can Levi's do it in 3? We'll find out after this break.
Takes an interesting path to get there, but it's a 2-0 in favor of the Leviathans and scored. Of course, Chel back on the desk to try and break this one down. Chel and I'm going to be honest, I don't envy it because it is very a Leviathans game for a while. It's a Gladiators game for another little while, and then it's a Leviathans game till the end. Very, very... I don't even want to use the term back and forth because it only goes back and forth once.
Yeah, it was very Leviathans heavy.
Yeah.
They get Fire Giant, and Myth highlights it very well. I don't know why they thought they could win 3v5, but they
tried.
They send Adapting to one lane, they send Zapman to the other, and the core 3 of the Leviathans say, hey, we're just going to take this fight. You get 2 tier 2 towers out of it, but it doesn't end up being worth it, of course. The Gladiators say, we'll take that trade. The next fight after is immediately thrown once again. The Gladiators say, hey, we get EFG, we're fine with this. And then it's another throw that ends up going back in the Leviathan's favor. Just a confusing game. And I will say Adapting's reaction said it all for me. There was some smiles in the Leviathan's booth, but there was not a smile on his face. And for good reason. If you've got a competitor's mindset, you're not happy about that win. You want your wins to be clean. This is a bottom-seeded matchup. If you think you're one of the better teams in the world, throws like that should not happen. And I don't think Adapting was happy about it. I don't think that he played perfectly. I don't think anyone in this game did. But at the end of the day, a win's a win, and the Leviathans end out on top after, I'll call it a wishy-washy performance.
Well, you know what? Like you said, a win is in fact a win. It looks like a 2-0 when I look back there, and that's all that matters. I think by the end of the day, like you said, though, probably want to clean some things up as they move forward, specifically in this set, right? I mean, you have a rocky game like that. How often is Stuart going to go 3-0-3 and then 6-1-4 and lose 2 games in a row? You know, I think that that's going to be something that probably doesn't continue. Whether it's Stuart's KDA that changes or the Leviathan's maybe mindset that changes, one of the two is going to have to. It feels like you're getting a lot of interesting, and I would even say bright, shining moments from the Gladiators. Sometimes gifted by the Leviathans, sometimes fought on their own right. But Charlie, now you're looking at the barrel of an 0-2. And again, for at least the loser of this set, it's not the end of the world. You still, just get knocked down to the bottom bracket, have a chance to try and get a higher seed. You're talking 3rd, 4th, things like that. You win this one, you get 1st or 2nd seed. A pretty big deal moving forward. Again, it makes your bracket a little bit easier, helps try to avoid the Ravens and the Warriors for as long as possible, which is the main goal right now. We'll find out whether or not the Leviathans can just stamp their ticket. The Gladiators maybe bounce back, picks and bans for game number 3. And one of the first times, I guess when there's only been 4 sets and it's the second time it's happened, it's half the time that we've seen a 2-0 start.
There's a lot of 1-1s.
But a lot of 1-1s. Glads, though, went up 2-0 over the Ferrymen, lose game 3 yesterday. So Leviathans up 2-0 over the Gladiators. And we'll see what kind of shifts and changes they make. The Morgan, still banned out, been one of the top bans so far from the Gladiators. Hel and Ronngyu, so Vamana, forced to be banned out by the Leviathans alongside Marty. And in the past, we've talked Serqet, Terra, Ronngyu. Last time it was Baba Yaga. This time it's going to be the same 3 with the Baba Yaga. Terra was the first pick for the Gladiators. They're changing things up. And they're grabbing that Serqet.
Yep, this was a question mark for us in last picks and bans. Why the Terra over the Serqet? Not even because Inbound's Terra is bad, but because Kyrmi Serqet is so good. Adapting had a fine performance on the Serqet last game, and I think Kyrmi's Bakasura was also fine. You know, not a standout from either of them, but giving that control over to Kyrmi definitely a good look. And you know, I think there are other strong support picks besides the Terra. Not to say Terra's bad; she certainly is strong, definitely on the upper echelon of support
Would you
gods.
say something like maybe like a Yemoja?
Yeah, that could be an opportunity if it doesn't get picked here. Unlucky, hovered immediately there from the Leviathans. I don't think that you want to give up Serqet and Terra, though. So if the Gilded Gladiators did first pick Yemoja, it wouldn't have been the best look. Hachiman, definitely agree. Still the best ADC available with Marty being banned, in my opinion. Just brings so much to the table. Does mean the Rama could be grabbed here from the Gilded Gladiators, and given Stuart's performance, I wouldn't hate it.
Looked, yeah, like you said, I mean, incredible. Quick maths, what is he, 9-1-7 total? 3-0-3 and then 6-1-4?
Myth did call him out for being a KDA player that game, though.
Well, that's actually, you know, an interesting conversation that I don't mind getting a part of while some of the picks and bans come through, because there were a lot of games where, or even the first few weeks, this is actually wild to have found, the first few weeks of this phase, the win-loss for the Gladiators was atrocious.
Yep. A lot else.
Stuart was still in like the top 5 KDAs of the league.
Mm-hmm.
And there were even moments, I think I'm having a flashback to a Marty game. He's in the fountain. He's like 6, no, not 6-0. He's like 3-0. Looked really good. Had a great game. Left me wanting to see maybe more. Get in there, get active. Not be the forefront of your team fight, but, you know, if you're not dying in certain circumstances.
You ain't dying, you ain't trying.
Yeah, something like that.
Someone's probably said that at least once, but I tend to agree.
You did, just now.
Yeah, but
So that's
I'm sure someone said it before me, and if not, then hey, I want a quarter anytime someone says it from the rest of the world. But I think, you know, what he was saying was there's some truth to it. I mean, if Stuart does not bail on his team early in that situation and intends to fight or go in for the Phoenix, maybe a little bit less Phoenix damage, maybe scared he lives a little bit longer. Those are the sort of things. He was the only one that did live, but he was tanking it up. He doesn't have to bail so early on. It's nice to have that flashy KD, but I'm not going to say he costed the game. I just think staying in there and dying with your squad doing a bit more damage could be the call in some situations.
Yeah.
And they do decide to wait on Stuart's ADC pick. It gets banned away by the Leviathans, the Rama that is, so he won't be able to pilot that one once again to see what he goes to try and have a similar performance to game number 2. Because I don't think his performance in and of itself was a problem. You know, he's still landing consistent snipes, confirming those kills for his team. And that's exactly what you would want from a Rama, especially in a late game setting.
Well, solo lane matchup here for the Leviathan, something they got to be thinking about. Hercules. Though if we want to really talk about it, the last time the Hercules was played into the Yemoja, things went kind of wrong in the midst of it. That was a King Arthur choice earlier. But this time around, we'll go back to, was it early season 8 when we were talking to fineokay and we said, well, you know, Chulainn versus King Arthur, how do you feel about it? And I think you described Chulainn as budget King Arthur.
He
Brings
did say that.
a couple different things to the table, but nonetheless, going to fill the same slot here. Chulainn. And Trelly, Chulainn's someone who we don't get to see too often nowadays. How do you feel about this getting locked in just in general?
I love the Chulainn. I think, unfortunately, he does have a rough time into a sustain meta. He doesn't have great all-in. He does a lot of poking and, you know, setting up for the team. He's got great CC, but the issue becomes, hey, what happens when they heal off your damage and you haven't transformed? You're just yourself. You know, you're small form Chulainn, not rage form Chulainn, and the fight's over. Doesn't look as good. So that's sort of the reason that Chulainn has fallen off a bit. The E-Shell gets locked in there for the Gilded Gladiators to mixed success. Last E-Shell game I casted didn't look great. Unfortunately, that ultimate does take a bit to get online. Sure, if you're able to cast it through its entirety, like the full 6 seconds, you can make some big plays, but it is not an Anubis. It looks similar, but it does not do that same amount of damage, and you will die if you try casting it in the forefront of a team fight like that. So you have to position yourself extremely well. I'm not going to say that Snoopy hasn't figured it out because I haven't seen him play it, but I don't think so far we've seen the full display of E-Shell's power.
It was played against them yesterday, and they bullied Paul when he played it.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like you said, when we saw the Dragons play it against the Hounds, kind of leaves you wanting maybe a little bit more.
Not forget the name, Morgan
It's going to be going up against the Morgan Le Fay, which we got to, again, see yesterday, actually, from Paul. And the first time they played it, it looked really good here. Mid lane matchup, I mean, you had mentioned, Ixchel in terms of her ult, but just in general, I mean, like, going from farm game to late game, what can we expect between an Ixchel and a Morgan Le Fay?
Well, what I love about Ixchel is that her damage is nice. It's just the ultimate is so... I think it's in a weird spot where people are trying to use it to initiate a fight, and I don't think that's the play. It's usually a counter initiation saying, hey, my tank is kind of low, I'm going to use it to heal them up, and then as you chase into us, I will also do damage. If you can get that play off, works every time. Morgan Le Fay, so much easier. You don't have to use your brain. You just you just throw abilities out, shiny symbols, swing with the ultimate.
Hey, this is off cooldown. I'm going to hit it.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. You have to think a lot more. And in a Game 3 matchup with a lot on the line here, seeding-wise, I wouldn't have personally went to the Ixchel, but like I said, Snoopy could have been playing this non-stop since she came out and is about to show us something magical. It's just so much easy self-peel for the Morgan Le Fay. Ixchel does bring a bit of that as well. She's got the root, she's got the knock-off, she's got the heal. It's just, can you protect her, and can you get to late game? Because, again, that ult does need some itemization before it starts really swinging.
Well, this is a pick, and actually the third time, and you know what they say, Charlie, third time's the charm. Maybe this is the opportunity for the Ixchel to show us what exactly they have to offer. I do want to look, I mean, look, it's unavoidable in this matchup. The Serqet up against the Bakasura. This is two gods, both of which have been very kind to the people playing on Baka. Yep. Maybe not as synonymous with adapting as he is with some others, but the Serqet has treated Kyrmi incredibly kind to the point where the fact that it's gotten through sometimes is a mistake. But, and I think this is a very important caveat to it, is the last time these two played in the regular season, they let Kyrmi get the Serqet and handled it anyway. So the Leviathans know how to shut it down, but is it enough? If you're looking at Ixchel saying, well, your ult's a little difficult, making you work might be hard. Heimdallr, I mean, we were having a KDA player conversation earlier. Can Serqet do enough of this with those two behind her? Or do you need more help than what you're getting?
You definitely need help. I don't know if you need more help. I'm not saying that the Gilded Gladiators comp is just so outrageous it can't work. It just... the Leviathans comp plays itself. Besides Yemoja, you do have to get pretty keen walls. Besides that, everyone else is relatively easy of access. It just plays itself.
I guess we'll find out. Can the Leviathans let their comp play itself and find a win? Will the Gladiators push us to at least 4? We'll find out in Game 3.
Yeah, we'll see if the Leviathans can close this out and give us our first 3-0 of the weekend, or will the Gladiators keep up the trend and push us to at least a game number 4? We'll find out here in Game 3. It's J-Mac, Mifflin, and Doug back here to bring you the action for that one. And Miff, I'm going to maybe piggyback at least off the desk here with the Ixchel. Haven't seen the greatest success out of the characters so far. Paul got bullied very heavily whenever he played it before. Dardes didn't get the same bully treatment, but wasn't able to pull out a success just yet in the mid lane. Going for this full damage style of option, really just trying to utilize the damage within her kit, but also does tie into maybe how much later this game could potentially go for the Gladiators for a pick like this to get online.
I'll give you the jungler's perspective on Ixchel. I'm thinking about how her self-peel works, what she can do to me as just about blanket any assassin, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I can't wait to go make contact, right? The Ixchel is jungler food, at least for the first 10 or so levels. Once support starts to rotate out a little bit more consistently, once they're grouped up more, could have some success, additional movement speed, so has some of the similar self-peel potential as Morgan Le Fay on the other side, but up against a Bakasura, feels like, and it plays into what Trelly was saying about how this is a composition that essentially plays itself here for the Leviathans. Feels like the goal for adapting, the largest hurdle he has to get over in killing Ixchel is making contact. You just got to get to him, especially in a post-ultimate world where you can just drop Regurgitate and Snoopy's essentially stuck with you. So I'm excited to see how Snoopy pilots it, whether or not the Leviathans make an attempt to legitimately just sit on this pick. The worst performance we've seen so far was Paul, but I'd argue Fenrir might just be the best counter matchup into Ixchel possible, or maybe one of the most miserable matchups I've ever seen. I would imagine Bakasura can replicate at least a bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, you think of the Fenrir just brutalize.
Brutalize, and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, you have a knock-up, that does nothing. You have a root, that also does nothing. So just no way that you could really play into it that time. Maybe a little bit of better peel up against adapting. We spent so much time on the right side yet again, a 2v2, breaking out in the solo lane, adapting, being slammed by a little bit of the damage from Kyrmi, but can heal himself back up by using some of his minions. fineokay puts under tower, but it's only one tower shot that hits him. So he'll be able to walk away. Some of the shield from that transformation helping him out.
Yeah, some of that shielding. Doesn't have the dash, so maybe could have stuck around for the fight, but Kyrmi had already used so much. Zapman, eyes for inbound. Ronngyu backing him up there. No more fight to be had either. I'm excited for this matchup. Look, I look at this Serqet and Bakasura matchup, which seems to have become the standard jungler versus jungler experience, and haven't been given a little bit more data on it. It feels like throughout the early game, Serqet is going to have a major advantage, especially pre-5. Even post level 5, up until around level 10, maybe 12, it's going to be Serqet every single time that you just favor in that engagement. She has more burst, more consistent damage. But once adapting starts to stack up some of that itemization, regurgitate just becomes a death sentence for Serqet. 50% of your kit removed, and if Bakasura only needs to land 3 or 4 auto attacks, and if those 3 or 4 auto attacks are coming out within 2 seconds flat, feels like Kyrmi's going to struggle. We got to see that really play out, what, once or twice in the previous match in inverse. Kyrmi on the Bakasura up against adapting Serqet. So we'll see how this one goes. Adapting always been a player very willing to farm up for the first couple minutes of the game. We'll see if that's how he decides to play it out this time around. Would love to see him get involved on the Xshell though. Need to see some pressure tossed Snoopy's way.
Get something going maybe a little bit sooner rather than later, because once that level 12 hits, beads and Aegis to be available, should be enough of a bailout to try and deal with adapting there. While the knock-up and the root don't necessarily work up against a god like Fenrir, can definitely keep adapting busy if he gets hit by some of those CCs late game through. Also gotta mention the fact that she does have that brief blind within her kit as well, but haven't really seen much utilization of that, especially for how short it is compared to some of the other blinds in SMITE. Thinking immediately of fineokay Raw for how long the durations on those last, so it's a lot of burst damage that can come from Snoopy late game. It really does take a while before that ultimate can swing. It starts off at the 3-second base, but as mentioned, can be channeled up to a full 6 seconds if utilized correctly.
Yeah, I don't think the blind is something that is really tying into like your own thought process. You're not thinking to yourself, okay, well if I hit him with the blind here, I could do X, Y, or Z. It's all right, well, he's blinded for a second. All right, most of these players are gonna be able to play through it relatively easily. Man, which one of these teams is gonna get aggressive first? That's the question. Which one has the onus to get aggressive? I'd argue it's Kyrmi on this Serqet, so in turn the Gilded Gladiators hovering nearby on the dual lane, but Zapman has ultimate. Not exactly going to get a whole lot done there.
Scared he's going to get the bully treatment though. Ronngyu showing up. It's 3 versus 1. River's Rebuke might not even have been necessary at that point, but adapting first blood for Leviathans. You want to talk about who's aggressive?
No way.
It's over to the right
You
side.
wouldn't.
Maybe a solo. No, a small heal
Hold
from
on.
Snoopy. Sigil and blood autos. Sheento solos down Snoopy.
Are we sure Ixchel's good? Are we certain of that?
We never got a confirmation if she was good or not. We just, when I sat down with the mid laners, I also said, what are your thoughts on this god? You know what most of them said? Haven't had a chance to play her very much yet, so we don't know. In theory, yes, but don't know.
Doesn't look so good, not just yet. That is a lot of damage from Sheento. And I'm looking at Sheento's HP, and he doesn't have a heal, but he is full HP. Wonder how that one pans out. Maybe Snoopy just doesn't quite find the damage that he needs to. Look at what, hold on. That's different. Look at Sheento's build, J-Mac. It's Chronos Pendant in
Wait,
first
with
slot.
Sans?
Yeah, my man's had a lot of CDR already. Snoopy has been struggling against that poke. I mean, we've seen it even at, what was it, level 3 and 4. He was sent back to base because Sheento's just sinking damage from downtown. Doesn't have to think about it, as Charlie had said. Stu tries to get aggressive. Ultimate off the mark.
Oh, he's missed
Is he out?
so much.
He's out.
All right, stun from Inbound does bail him out there, but he missed so many autos up against Zapman, who's just trading blow for blow and doesn't even need that. It's just, I'm hitting you, you're not doing anything to me. Man, just a unfortunate box match there, bailed out by the Bifrost in for Inbound there. Sheento throws out the ultimate with Kyrmi and Snoopy standing by. Clears out the minion wave himself.
It was a good ult. Uses it to CC immune the taunt from Kyrmi there. So Blink loss from the Serqet in exchange for Sheento's ult and ultimate on a much lower cooldown than your beads, especially when you've got this much cooldown built already. Clean play from Sheento as Inbound maybe does a bit too much himself.
Gets stunned out
Hold on.
after his second dash, but Stuart's going to try and turn it back around. Needs a couple of autos. One more just
comes
out of
Kyrmi.
range. Bifrost to try and close the gap, but he just can't get there. Kyrmi instead. Taunt gets blocked out by the Bastion, but the ultimate connects on the Ronngyu. Finds a double stun, drops the ultimate, and tries to bail out using one of the other walls. Gets a Riptide.
No way.
Just barely makes out an extra stun to his name. And somehow, some way, both Zapman and Ronngyu make it out, but not Snoopy. He's chomped away by adapting.
Well, there's a couple things we need to break down there. First off, Ronngyu built different. That is perfect pathing, perfect decision making. I'm not sure there's another line of play that gets him out of there. And then adapting, also built different. No, Inbound's got dash. He should be okay. Will make his way out. Unless Sheento can connect some damage. Is the dot enough? The ult is. That is ridiculous.
Wait, Sheento left mid?
Sheento, A, left mid, B, gets another kill. Look, if the kill's guaranteed, that's just farm in Sheento's eyes. And
just another minion to him
just
at that
another
point.
minion to Sheento. Leviathans reprising the first couple minutes of game 2. Pick into Fury. Pick into Objective, I should say. Maybe suffering from success a bit here. That Fury is going to respawn pretty quickly. Maybe won't desync the objectives. Yeah, it won't. 3 minutes. It'll be around the same time Pyromet's response. So there is an opportunity for the Gilded Gladiators this time around to at least go for whatever the Leviathans don't want. Pick up some scraps on the map.
I'm still just baffled by the Sheento build. I mean, we've seen Chronos pin it before, usually by BenEQ, or if you're playing Giannis. And if it's BenEQ, he's almost always going Conduit Gem with it. Because it feels like if you go Desolation, you hit 40%.
Maybe he sells starter. I mean, if you look,
or maybe he goes alternate. Hear me out?
I'm gonna tell you my thought process on overcapping stats. Some people are just too fixated on it. Like, you got 50% CDR is the worst build I've ever seen.
I'm not saying it's the worst.
No, I mean, I know you're not, but some people are. Some people at home right now are thinking to themselves,
look,
this
man,
is just not peak efficiency. Tell that to the 2-0, all right?
Stuart finds an ult on the Zapman. Kyrmi is nearby.
Zap should just be
Zapman
dead.
has ult, doesn't have beads.
Ooh, good
He'll ult
pathing.
into the jungle. Inbound is there to try and catch him out. Taunted off the horse, and Kyrmi puts a kill under his column. And finally puts the Gladiators on the board. No shutdown as the kill was on the Zapman, who is not actually even a part of any of the other kills that have taken part so far for the Leviathans, despite them being in his direct lane matchup. But I'm going to go back with you on that one. I agree with what you say about the stack cap. I mean, especially with how much CDR is in the game on just items in general. Protections are easy to overcap as well. It's not as big a deal. Unless you're intentionally building like 80% CDR, then it's a little weird.
Yeah, a little bit. And we don't even need to go down that conversation path because it's not Spear of Desolation.
Nope.
It's Divine Ruin in second slot for Sheento. So a little bit of anti-heal up against Snoopy, who does have sustain and kit. Will have a bit less now when he's fighting up against Sheento, which should be every single time, as that is his direct lane opponent. Snoopy will have damage advantage come next item. Once you finish up that route as a Hootie, things should equalize a bit, even favoring Snoopy so far as poke is concerned. But it doesn't feel like it, does it? Sheento has just been playing as aggressively as he wants, and it's still been 0 rotations to him.
Does get a little bit, drops down an ultimate, and gets a little bit of healing back from it, but he survives the 3-man gank, and that's the important part for Snoopy, is he's been dying to the 1- and 2-man ganks in mid, but lives out on the 3-man one. Maybe just because his speeds were up in time, but fineokay rotating through. Going to be a potential 4v3 in the mid lane. Snoopy dove on by fineokay, but not by Kyrmi. Tries to bail him out. fineokay goes for the ult, hits knock up onto 3 inbound. One shot away, and Sheento puts him down. Immediately after his rebuke to catch out Scary D. Nowhere for the Hercules to go. The walls collapse. Scary D's stunned before he can get the push. And instead now he's forced back into his own tower. Kyrmi playing bailout for his squad, but now gets rooted up by fineokay. Chased in the rage form. and fineokay is not giving up.
fineokay has got a lot of damage here, just needs his cooldowns back. Kyrmi connects TC. Stuart, the exact same. He's going to the tier 2 tower, and fineokay, a lost cause for his team, unless he's got the turnaround, not enough damage. Snoopy finally marks his first kill, but what are the Leviathans doing with the sprays created by their soul laner? They've got eyes for the Pyromancer, inbound on respawn, on his way, but not in time. Pyromancer will go to the Leviathans. I had thought they'd take a little bit longer to get onto that objective. Not the case. Leviathans playing very fast here. Worth calling out. We don't see it often. Inbound dies to the clone from Sheento. I think it was 3 auto attacks from the Morgan Le Fay clone. That is incredibly unfortunate for the support of the Gilded Gladiators, but awesome for Sheento himself, who is now 3-0. Fortunately, comeback mechanics for Snoopy means that kills for him, very valuable. Keeps him at level parity with his direct lane opponent.
Inbound trying to steal away purple. Does do so. Second dash. Gets him some distance. Unlikely he'll fall here. We'll be stunned out at least by Ronngyu, but should be fine with Stuart standing by. I will say in all my time playing Morgan Le Fay and playing against Morgan Le Fay, I don't think I've ever seen someone go down to the clone. In fact, in my time playing, I could probably say less than 10% of the time I use that sigil.
You should. It's good.
But that might have just convinced me. Ronngyu, he'll be caught out. 3 versus 1 inside the jungle. Pick for Stu. Gets the Gladiators now back in 3-5 on the kill column. Leviathans were up nearly 3,000 earlier. The Gladiators are starting to crawl back into this game. fineokay is here. Does he teleport? Didn't even have the teleport, actually. He just walked over here with the rest of the squad. Knockup is good on a fineokay. He's surrounded by 3 again. Gets the triple knockup, and it ults from Sheento, do a lot of damage back. While Snoopy attempts to heal up the squad with his. Meanwhile, adapting with the clothesline to the back line. Doesn't find Snoopy, but might be able to find Inbound. Just not enough. There's too much damage, too much CC
He's dead.
from the Gladiators to fall in.
Adapting's dead in the sky, so Scary D and Stu start stepping themselves forward. But maybe not enough. Wind in the sails of the Gilded Gladiators to actually look at the objective instead. Is the Leviathans on a team fight loss that have got eyes for the Oni Fury. Resustaining slowly with the help of Ronngyu. Scary D and Kyrmi got a lot of work cut out for him.
4 versus 2. Stu's been able to get a little bit of healing. Snoopy not enough. First rebuke there. Scary D now caught out by himself. Can't go between the walls. And it's sent out to root onto Ronngyu. The knockup is good, and Stu turns it around. He's on a killing spree, and Kyrmi wants to make it a little bit more. But a taunt doesn't land. He throws the minion out, but it dies before he can toss it through. While Scary D and Inbound continue their push in. Push against the wall, but Sheento lives through.
Scary D very low. Zapman on respawn. No ultimate, so no chase potential. So the Leviathans maybe lose a couple of team fights back to back, but have done enough up until this point to mitigate that loss and preventing that Fury from falling. I think the most significant part of that exchange. The Leviathans will be nursing that 2,000 experience, though, has been completely equalized. I've seen a few too many attempts on Soul Laner's lives so far this set. Scary D survives for far too long in spite of a phenomenal ultimate placement from Ronngyu. Pins him against that wall, even connects 2 stuns on the tail end. But with Kyrmi creating some space and damage from Snoopy towards the tail end, the Leviathan's not able to secure that kill. This does leave the objective available, so I wouldn't be surprised to see both these teams regrouping shortly. Try and take down that Oni Fury. Tier 1 tower gone in mid now for the Gilded Gladiators. And so, if the fight starts to go south for them, they'll have to retreat a bit further.
Now Snoopy catching himself back up. To Sheento was down about a level and a half, but with that one fight, it's brought Snoopy back in. 1, 2, and 2 for him. Not the most impressive start compared to the 3-0 for Sheento, but Sheento's just not been able to get the same level of farm that we saw even last game, where Sheento was level 20 by about the 19.5, nearly 20-minute mark. Just haven't been able to get that same level this time through. Hasn't even gotten close to his level 15 just yet, so Leviathans lose out on that experience lead that they had, still maintaining a bit of the gold, but maybe not as drastic as it could have been.
No, not at all. I think the difference is, legitimately, is that Adapting's playing Bakasura, so he can clear his own jungle very quickly. Sheento has been making a bit more rotations towards these side lanes as well, so hasn't been farming as much, but if you look at the player damage charts, I think you'll see what he's been up to instead. Top of the charts, and it's not even close. Nearest 3,000 behind. This early in the game, 3,000 damage, hard to come by. Oni Fury, pulled by the Gilded Gladiators. Leviathans slow on the uptake here. Zapman spots it. It's burning fast.
Rongyu's here. He's got ultimate. fineokay, meanwhile, wrapping around the backside of this fight. River's thrown out, and the Gladiators do get the Fury. But fineokay is now collapsing to the carry. Zapman tries to deal with Kyrmi while adapting, takes down Scary D. And now the cripple is stopping Snoopy and Stu from being able to find escape out. Adapting and Sheento team up for the damage while Zapman solos out Kyrmi. And now Inbound surrounded by 5. The Leviathans chop down the Gladiators.
Is that fire?
And they'll rotate over to the right side and Fire Giant under their sights.
I think that's gotta be Fire Giant. You've got so much time to play with. The Scary D doesn't even have teleport. A bad situation becomes worse. On the tail end, the Gilded Gladiators decide. An active decision. We need to get the objective, and then it's going to be a disengaged call. Kyrmi tries his own Zapman, instead taken out. And it's the Leviathans who may have lost the objective, but won the battle. 4 dead on respawn. Takes about 15, maybe 20 seconds to get to the Fire Giant pit. And I don't think anybody's en route. The Leviathans, they'll take the biggest neutral objective, 0 fight back.
One of the fastest fires that we've seen so far this playoff event, just shy of the 17-minute mark. The Leviathans take a Fire Giant and have now boosted their lead back up. 4,000 for themselves and a little bit extra with this Pyromancer going down. Now puts yet another Runic Bomb in their pocket. First one used on the mid-tier 1. Now another one to start up for the next siege. But with how close the map state at least was, I mean, only one tier 1 left standing on the left side, and tier 2s, maybe unlikely a Phoenix is broken with this siege.
You know, Fire Giant this early has traditionally not been the most valuable. Knocking down a few towers, absolutely. Grabbing Gold Fury on respawn, to be certain, for the Leviathans. But that 1-3-1 split from the last game is still in the back of my mind. And I had talked to some of the Leviathans players afterward, and they're like, yeah, I don't know what happened. We just spaced out. It was some of the worst SMITE we played. First 20 minutes were good, though, right? I was like, yes. So we'll see. They able to clean it up a bit already, starting to scatter across the map. But looking at Sheento and adapting, moving over towards the left, inspires me a bit with some confidence in their ability to go ahead and start pushing into this tier 1 tower. fineokay does not have teleport, so where he stands is where he's going to be. Has to walk anywhere on the map. On the right-hand side, could fall prey to the significant grouping from the Gilded Gladiators. Just trying to knock down a few towers before the Leviathans approach their Phoenixes.
It's a 3-2 split by the Leviathans. The 2 in mid, the 3 on left,
I can get
shoving
behind
down
a 3-2.
towers. Well, now the 3 of the Gladiators, they got to make it back quick, but again, unlikely to push it to a Phoenix unless maybe a pick or 2 came the way of Leviathans prior. They'll work their way onto a tier 2 tower for as much as they can, but just adapting alone is not enough damage, especially without the minion wave standing by with them. The Leviathans have cleared out everything on the left side of the map, barring the Phoenix at least for now, but Gold Fury still a minute away. Could be the last thing they grab with this Fire Giant buff.
Yeah, 1 minute on the Fire Giant. I think they could probably keep pushing into this tier 2. Zapman seems unwilling. Got a couple of pings. So the Gilded Gladiators realize he's on the left-hand side. Leviathans just peppering in some damage. The 2-man core, fineokay and Ronngyu, not going to get a whole lot done on this tier 2 tower line. So Leviathan's happy with the lead that they were able to establish with this first Fire Giant this early in the game. I'd argue very good value in that Fire Giant as well. Clear out as much farm as they can on map, strip away some of these buffs, grab the neutrals, or maybe even look towards the tier 2 on right. If you can keep the Gilded Gladiators guessing on where the push is going to be, easier time knocking down one of these towers. But this early, we're essentially just spinning our wheels, waiting for that next objective.
Adapting, looking to take away the chest camp, but maybe a bit early on the rotation to it. As long as he sticks around for a few more seconds, should be able to strip that free gold away from the Gilded Gladiators once that one spawns back in. And it's a full camp as well. 5 full stacked on it would be a great resource to strip away from the team. But for now, it'll just be a clear out of the jungle by Leviathans to try and keep things away from the Gladiators. Not going to go back to that camp. Instead, it'll be Inbound, clearing out all 5 chests to give that gold over to his team. While the Leviathans go for a little bit more gold. How about a Fury now for the Leviathans?
Hey, that's interesting. Inbound's actually a level up on Ronngyu. Not sure when that would have happened. It's just farming a bit more on his own, I suppose, whereas Ronngyu has been hovering the jungle for the most part, letting the rest of his team soak up that farm. So 1 level in solo, 3 in the jungle, 2 in mid, and then parity between these hunters is the current state of things for the Leviathans and their levels. Fury knocked down. Things getting a bit easier. Pyromancer respawning shortly. Fire Giant right behind it, and Leviathan's far enough ahead that they should be willing to just go ahead and force an engagement, I think. Fire Giant the easy POI to make that happen. And the Gilded Gladiators, we served a difficult question. Are you willing to defend? And if so, is it on Fire Giant or is it on Phoenix? I would think they would want to play on Fire Giant. Neutral territory, much easier. Chel. I mean, I don't have a lot of data to back this, but it doesn't seem like Chel is a base defense style pick.
At the moment, maybe a good pick style for him. Ronngyu can't get through his Riptide, pushed away, throws out the Rivers
he's dead,
to try and separate himself from the rest of the team.
He's dead.
The chase damage is not quite there for the Ixchel. Snoopy gets pushed away as
he's
well,
living.
and fineokay puts him down. Ronngyu still alive and adapting to close right back in. Stuart able to get out with the Bifrost, but Inbound, his wall is not enough. Inbound will immune right through that one and keep chomping away for another shot. Zapman takes down that one. Scary D throws out the boulder, and it's the last thing he gets to do in this fight. It's a killing spree for Zap.
So is it Fire Giant or Phoenix first for the Leviathans? Maybe Pyromancer first. Why would you, though? Have Adapted go ahead and split push. He wins just about any 1v1 that comes his way at this point. And then the Fire Giant for the rest of the team. Look at Sheento, though. He's spotted Kyrmi on map, considers walking through, and thinks better of it. Serqet still has a good deal of damage and a good deal of threat, so Sheento won't leave it up to risk and instead decides to keep his discipline. Fire Giant now to the Leviathans as Ronngyu once more finds that perfect pathing to escape what was a good collapse from the Gilded Gladiators, just not enough damage to finish him off. This is now starting to become 99% odds for the Leviathans. The gold lead, the experience, all starting to veer out of control. Fire Giant for the entire timer. Pyromancer, a foregone conclusion, unless Kyrmi can just walk up and keep it simple.
He just walked up slowly and
That is,
stole that.
yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Foregone conclusion absolutely used improperly by me. I thought maybe Zap would, like, stun him or maybe some damage would go his way. Kyrmi, he makes it look simple. Gets up there. Look, it's not going to have a whole lot of knock-on effects for the game. It does make it a little bit harder now for the Leviathans to siege without that Runic Bomb, but I don't imagine that Runic Bomb is going to find a whole lot of value in Kyrmi's pocket either.
We've seen a couple Runic Bombs used to try and act as CC in team fights.
I saw one burn a beads.
We did.
Exactly once.
Yeah, I think we were both in that game together for that one. But gonna need a little bit more than just a set of beads this time to find some of the value in one of these team fights for Kyrmi. Leviathan's up nearly 10,000 gold at this point, cresting around that 9K mark so far. Up against the Gilded Gladiators. One tower left, and now Phoenix is on the mine. It's another minute and a half left, roughly, for this Fire Giant buff. The Gilded Gladiators haven't really seen so far what Snoopy's been able to do too much in the team fights. The damage has been a bit lacking so far on the Ixchel. He's got some range on the God to try and keep some of these minions out, but let's see how it can fare in a siege itself.
You know, we'll see. The Leviathans finally now starting to broach in towards these Phoenixes. Good deal of poke immediately. So we know Sheento's hitting hard. Phoenix is not taking a whole lot of damage, though. Keep your eyes on Rongyu's ultimate. That's the true dedication button. That's when you know the Leviathans are actually going to commit to the fight. Fire Giant timer is starting to wear thin. Only about 55 seconds left on it, and the Leviathans have not made a whole lot of headway.
Sheento rotates mid, makes it a 3-2 split. 3 advantageous towards mid. Snoopy throws out some damage. fineokay and ultimate, and as well as adapting, Snoopy has to use all of his relics just to stay alive and fight back, but he's not getting any value from the heal on his ultimate. Instead, it's just zoning away. Ronngyu was hit by the ultimate from Stuart, but the damage has been done to the Phoenix. Kyrmi dives in, double stun on top of the duo of the Leviathans, but everybody is so low on the Gladiators, they might just have to give up this Phoenix. His fineokay has returned to the fight. Snoopy has got nothing to defend himself with, but the bird is not the focus. The Leviathans are going for kills.
They've wanted a little bit more damage. Adapting, lines up against Kyrmi. It's a good matchup for Bakasura so long as he's got ultimate, and he has not. Tanks up the bird, and Kyrmi adapting falls down. 50 seconds of the grayscale to think about that one. As they split damage between the Phoenixes, both standing at 10%. The Gilded Gladiators successful in their defense. Leviathans just not able to secure those kills. Great peel from Kyrmi throughout the entirety of that fight. Gotta be the MVP for the Gilded Gladiators. Not only does he knock down Adapting, but he keeps Snoopy alive single-handedly. It was a dive from Adapting where he would have secured the kill with, what, maybe 1-2 more auto attacks, even through the relics of Snoopy. But the ultimate from Kyrmi prevents that from going through. From there, the Leviathans fight begins to fizzle. That said, the Gilded Gladiators are not out of the fire just yet, J-Mac. Things are still looking dire. And with Fire Giant spawning up very shortly, got to think that's where the Leviathans move next.
20 seconds left. So Fire's back, adapting now, respawning. We'll be able to make it to that objective in time and set us up for another potential 5v5 on that right side of the map. With both Phoenixes still standing, no need to worry about minion waves pushing in, no fire minions to have to deal with. So the Gilded Gladiators can try and fight at full strength. Do you think that maybe the full strength in the jungle is one of the best spots for the Leviathans to fight up against this objective? Maybe I don't even have to ask, because it doesn't seem like the Gladiators are willing to fight for a Fire Giant. Instead, it's a full 5-stack over to the left side of the map by the Gladiators. They're keeping the minions out, but they're not doing anything right now. They're not pushing into a tower just yet, even with all 5 there. Instead, they shove up a wave and they start a group back to go back to base.
Yeah, waiting for that minion wave on left. They should knock down this tier 2. Stu, sticking around, has got the damage for it. Scary D will tank it up for him. So tier 2 tower taken, a little bit of global gold for the Gilded Gladiators as they bolstered their defense, getting ready to defend up in their base. Right side, the target for the Leviathans, the last remaining tower. Might as well grab a freebie. Tier 2 will go quickly. I had thought they'd try and regroup on either mid or left as quickly as possible to actually make use of some of those weakened Phoenixes instead. Allow them to regenerate just a bit more. The right side, the target. Minion wave here, but unwilling to commit just yet. Kyrmi, significant, has proven to be a thorn in the side of the Leviathans on the last couple bits of aggression we've seen from him. Maybe he puts a target on his back.
Ultimate by Snoopy to try and get some damage through, healing up Inbound as well, but the damage just isn't there against the Leviathans, and Inbound just barely lives through himself. Forced out to go all the way back to the Phoenix and force another 4v4. Actually a 4v3 because adapting, sticking over towards the mid. Leviathans keeping the Gladiators on their heels under the Phoenix.
They are. Meanwhile, adapting has finally used his ultimate up against Kyrmi, forced to use his own beads, cannot step up to defend, so mid-Phoenix gone. Meanwhile, on right, the team fight roars, and Inbound drop low.
Sheento doing so much damage with the ultimate. Phoenix still at half HP. Adapting did take out the mid-burn, is waiting for a chance to collapse back in. Snoopy by himself. Scary D has already used his dash, and Adapting is chopping through the back line. Snoopy gone. Scary D might just be the next one to go, though Kyrmi does bail him out for a moment, and Kyrmi gets the dash to make it back to the fountain. And on a 4v5 defense, the Leviathans aren't sure of their odds on a Titan siege.
Kyrmi maintains his ultimate throughout all that. We'll see if it pays off. Connects with fineokay, pulled back, punch connects. Damage there from Stu, but a dragon flight buys some space.
fineokay still alive. The heals, the shields are keeping him alive. Scary D instead pushed back, and Adapting takes him down. Kyrmi forced to go back to base, and now maybe on a 5v3. The Leviathans a bit more confident with this push. It's going to come down. Some big damage from Stu, from Kyrmi to slow this one down. Inbound pushback, Sheento in the ultimate to try and deal with Stu. Nearly takes him out, and fineokay deals the last shot of damage, but Kyrmi does take out Ronngyu. Adapting drops Inbound, and with only 4 versus 1, Kyrmi has no shot of stopping this, and the Leviathans take the set 3-0.
Let that be an example of what Game 2 could have looked like had the Leviathans not lost their focus. This was clear and concise. Find your pick, grab your objective, rinse, repeat until eventually the enemy Titan dies. The Leviathans have clearly found how they want to play out in this season of Smite. I love this style of play. Hyper-aggressive Sheento breaks the mold for himself, gets involved everywhere on the map, does not spend the first 15 minutes farming, instead gets active in that duo lane. Some great rotations there, even finds that solo kill up against Snoopy. Leviathans looking rejuvenated here.
Yeah, it really feels like that solo kill was kind of what sparked Sheento's movement across the map, because otherwise he's got to sit there, still try and farm up against Snoopy. Maybe if he at least gets the TKO, can get a little bit of grace there to make those rotations, but really feels like Sheento now being back here on American soil, getting to play with the team here in the studio, really has elevated his gameplay so far.
It has. But if you're a Gilded Gladiators fan, fret not. It's a double elim tournament, and they had won out in their first set, so they'll be sticking around a little while longer. You'll have plenty of opportunities to watch them play, and I'm sure they'll come with some improvements. Those first couple of games as well, I mean, they could have gone either way. Granted, it was a lot of throws from both sides, but at the end of the day, this set could have very well gone the distance.
And the Gladiators lose out here, but as mentioned, still another opportunity for them on the lower side of the bracket. Leviathans, though, they move on and will play for some of the top seeding up against their opposition. That's it for me and Miff on the cast. We'll throw it to the desk to break it down.
That's right. It's a guaranteed first or second seed here now for the Leviathans with that win. It's very helpful. Honestly, very good for them, right, Chel? We're coming into this. This is now, I guess, technically 5 games in a row if you want to count the last time they matched up against the Gladiators that they've won in this specific matchup. It's looked really solid for them here. It was not the cleanest set of SMITE that we have ever seen. There were definitely a lot of bumps in the road for them, but they got there at the end of it, and they still find themselves a 3-0 victory. First 3-0 that we've seen this week, and so emphatically kind of proving their point of where they belong and where they want to be.
Yep, and I think that's what they're looking for. Again, like you highlighted, we've seen some of the looks on these players' faces after some of these games, and it didn't look the most promising, but you get 3-0, you're in the finals of this particular seeding event, and I think that was the important part. You got a lot of game film to look back on and say, okay, this wasn't clean, this isn't what we wanted, we got the win, sure, but let's now work on, those little mistakes like overstepping or fighting 3v5, etc. I imagine this game, though, not too much to look back on. It seemed pretty clean from my point of view. There was a bit of defense. I think that Stuart, once again, had a decent KD, but that really, it was unavoidable at this point. I think the Leviathans played a pretty clean game of SMITE, except there was that one point when Adapting got picked in the first siege. I think they could have at least broken the base a bit sooner. That's like my one comment that I think could have been a little bit cleaner in particular.
Got grabbed more by the Phoenix damage than by the anything else damage.
Yeah.
I think Kyrmi got credit for the kill. And you could see even some kills towards the very end there going their way. But it's a good look for the Leviathans, like you said. Maybe a little bit sloppy around one siege, but otherwise very, very controlling. And the 3-0, that, as mentioned before, secures them a spot in that second seed match up against the Kings, which is not an easy team to go up against to try and secure yourselves. But if you're looking towards the Grand Horizon, looking towards Masters, this is one that gives you a little more hope for them. And Chel, outside of, if you look at Game 1 and 3, it was a lot more controlling and in their favor. Game 2, there was definitely a lot of murky water. But it is those moments, I mean, you see those, and we've talked to some of the Leviathans in the past, those are the moments where, in reality, that's where you learn what your team's mistakes are going to be and try to rectify them for games like that in Game 3.
And I would argue, this is, if you're going to have some sketchy games, if you're going to have some...
Do it now.
Less than clean play, it's definitely to have it now as opposed to Masters, right? That you've got a little bit of wiggle room. You can still iron out some of those issues, and I think that's probably the Leviathan sentiment as well. They would love to have came through and just swept everyone, but it's still a learning race, and I think that, probably at the end of the day, happy with a 3-0 at the very least.
Well, and we also have to, this is the first set they played this week because they got the bye, right? Second seed in the Chaos Division, right to this round. Knock down the Gladiators, very important, knock down, not knock out. Tomorrow is when we start the elimination games, when you start to figure out some of the seeding towards the lower end of things. Figure out then, I believe, Sunday it'll be 3rd, 4th into that second seed. A lot of things to try and figure out, so maybe a little bit of a rest here for both the Kings and the Leviathans as to how long they have until they play again. But definitely some footage that they're going to have to watch. In fact, we've actually got maybe some time to figure out what they're thinking, how they're feeling, not just about this set, but about their upcoming sets, as we go over to Adapting and talk to him.
Yeah, that's right. I've got Adapting, the jungler for the Leviathans here with our post-game interview. Adapting, I'll just start out with probably the question on everyone's mind. What happened in game number 2, man? You guys had such a strong lead, and then felt like you kind of just had a little bit too much fun there in the middle of it.
It was just a classic Leviathan strat. Just build a nice lead and then just throw it as hard as you can. But essentially, we had called a play to utilize a double split push to try and prevent them from pushing up against us. And then we had 3 in mid, and we saw all 5 there. And me and Sap realized we could just push those 2 towers, but we didn't, I guess we didn't communicate well enough that they need to just play back in mid. And then they ended up obviously just getting ran down in mid, and then Sap stayed afterwards. And then I'm trying to be a nice guy. I'm like, I'm gonna save you. And I didn't save him, and I died instead. And yeah.
Not quite working out there at the end. But Adapting, talk to me a little bit about your next matchup, going up against the Camelot Kings, fighting for that opportunity for that first seed moving into the Masters. How important is a set win like that one for you, getting that first seed opportunity?
I mean, I think it would be very good just for the momentum and a confidence boost, and just kind of making us feel like we're on the right path. Because I think even though it was sloppy today and we played bad, I think we had way better understanding of what we wanted to do in the games. We had an understanding of how where we wanted to take our drafts and how we wanted to handle things. Whereas in the online phase, we kind of just been rolling up game, and it's oh, what do we do here?
Right. Now, Well, going against the Camelot Kings, man, they've been struggling a little bit during their regular phase, had a bit of a tough time, got their win today, looked very strong up against the Hounds. How do you feel about your matchup going against the Camelot Kings tomorrow?
Wait, do we play tomorrow?
Or Sunday, I should say.
Okay.
Sunday, the next
Okay.
matchup that you do have with them.
My heart. I mean, I think we can definitely beat them. I think it should be some good games. They've been playing better, and I feel like despite us throwing a bit, we're playing better. So it should be a really fun set.
I'm looking forward to watching the set adapt. Congratulations on your win. I'll let you get back with the team. We'll throw back to Des to close it down.
3-0, and they get to move forward again, guaranteed in the top 2 seeds out of this one. And Trelly, it's been a good performance for them. The only 3-0 that we have in this tournament. And as was noted towards the very end, we won't see him again until Sunday when they play up against the Kings tomorrow. If you're wondering who we're going to be seeing, we'll take a look at the bracket so you can see where those matches are going to be. It's up towards the bottom, down towards the bottom. The Hounds taking on the Ferrymen. The Gladiators, who will now be finding themselves against the Dragon. And you might recognize this. First off, the Hounds and the Ferrymen just cannot seem to escape each other these last couple of weeks.
Yep.
The fight in the Order division that was necessary for seeding, and then a tiebreaker that was necessary for seeding, and then now another matchup that is necessary for seeding of those two teams constantly finding each other. That'll be the one I believe that we're starting the day out with. And then the Gladiators and the Dragons. Again, another matchup in the Chaos division. You got to see quite, I guess only 2 times so far this last phase. And I'm excited to see what that has to offer for us. The Gladiators have been looking better. The Dragons still leaving a lot of questions around. I think both of these sets are going to give us some very interesting Smite.
And that's the interesting thing about it. I know we just used interesting twice. That's on me. But it just seems like so many teams can beat each other, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, this team just wins out, except the Warriors, of course. But in this case, it's like, oh, but, the Gladiators get the better end of the Ferrymen, but then, of course, the Ferrymen beat the Hounds. And it's just so – it's whoever shows up on the day, of course.
Yep.
We always talk about that, play on field, but also new strats, right? I think that's a big deal, not sticking to, oh, we just have to play these, like, meta picks. We're going to throw something new in the mix. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm excited to see, what the future has in store.
What kind of Smite are they going to give us?
Yep.
Look, it's a nothing but best of 5s this week. So far, we've got 4 down, 4 left to go. And we're going to be starting it again tomorrow at 11 a.m. So thanks for tuning in today. From myself, from Chel, everyone back in production, everyone here at hi-rez Studios, we appreciate that you decided to spend it with us. We'll see you tomorrow to do it all again at 11 a.m.